Good morning. My name is Adibukola Renuga, and I work as the Chief Executive at Bank Directors Association of Nigeria. We would like to welcome everyone this morning. Thank you for joining on time. We currently have about 35 participants logged in, so thank you so much for taking time to come in early. On behalf of our chairman, Mr. Mustafa Chikirbi, and the board of directors, Abidan, we welcome you to this webinar for personal executive and technical assistance. It's themed Understanding the Essentials of PAEATA Duties, Effective Communication and Relations. And I would like to thank our facilitator. I can see that Miss Emanuela Tijani is here this morning. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you to Mr. Onikosi. I can see he's also joined for accepting to facilitate this session. We hope that you find the session useful and relevant in your roles as personal executive and technical assistants. And do have a good session. I would now hand over to my colleague, Femi Odunaike. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bukola. Welcome everyone to this workshop. It brings me great joy to welcome everyone to this workshop. We have almost tripled the numbers of the last workshop, and I want to thank everyone for taking the time to do it. We're going to get right into it, and the first thing on our agenda was the opening remarks by our chief executive. We're going straight into the pre-workshop assessment. We sent a link to everyone to gauge the knowledge on the theme, and our facilitators are going to review the responses. But before that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Onikosi. Mr. Onikosi is the founder of Neglig Consulting International, a people transformation company. He's the publisher of the Afrocentric Leadership magazine, which focuses on highlighting leadership stories from an African perspective. Sonikosi is also the founder and lead faculty of Maverick Managers Camp, Leadership Bootcamp. He has facilitated several workshops. I'm sure most of our participants have seen him somewhere, someplace, and I trust and I can assure you that all the sessions today are going to be impactful. I'm also going to introduce Mrs. Tijani. Mrs. Emanuela Tijani is a management professional and a certified world-class assistant with over 6 years experience in providing executive support to managers and executives. And before our current role as the product manager of Sterling Banks, she was the executive to the CEO and MD of Sterling Bank. She's also worked as a customer experience management personnel and a relationship manager. Like I said, she's a certified world-class assistant, and she will put you through on how she achieved that. So we're going to kick off straight into it, and I'll hand over to Mr. Onikosi, who is going to review the pre-workshop assessment. We sent you the link, and several of you responded and filled in the form. I want to thank everyone for that. I also want to plead that we name ourselves. This, other than being a workshop, this is also a networking platform. On this platform, we have personal executive and technical assistants from all over the globe. We have people from different regions and banks in Nigeria, Ghana, Mali, and several places around the globe. This is a networking platform. Rename yourself, your first name, and your organization so we can easily identify yourself. Also, before you answer or ask the question, kindly state your name, your organization, and your role. I'm Femi. I work for Bidan. I'm the personal assistant to the executive secretary and personal assistant to the chief executive. Yes. So I'm going to hand over now to Mr. Onikosi. Mr. Onikosi, kindly review the response. Thank you.
All right, Femi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's good to join you this morning for this session. And okay, so I want to acknowledge everyone again. Good morning, Femi, and good morning to the chief executive and to everyone, and to my colleague, that's Ms. Tijani Mori. It's good to be here with you again this morning. Okay, so I was just looking at the responses that we got for the pre-workshop assessment. Yeah, I see that. I'm just going to be just speaking about one or two of this your response to describing a recent challenging communication situation that you face or that you experience while supporting your executive, and then how you handle quite a number of them, but because of our time, I'll just maybe pick 2 or 3 of them and see how we go about that. So the first one that caught my attention here is, and I'm just going to make all of them anonymous, with no particular reference to any. Okay, so this participant said, my executive had an unpleasant experience with his flight, which I have attributed to the airline company's failure. However, unknown to my executive, I took it upon myself to reach out to the COO of our travel agent company, who arranged the booking, to convey our dissatisfaction and reluctance to pay them. Subsequently, the COO informed me through an email of their decision to discontinue provision of travel management services to us. Although my intentions were positive, I acknowledge that this action was undertaken without my executive awareness, posing a challenge in communicating their situation to me. Now, in order to maintain the positive rapport with both my executive and the managing director of the travel company, I approached my executive and informed him of the issue. After discussion, we reached a mutual understanding, and the service was ultimately reinstated, preserving the relationship with both parties involved. So, do you understand that scenario? I really like your take on it, yeah? So this is an assistant who was taking up a complaint, right, by his or her executive of a travel experience from the airline and all of that. And so without the knowledge of the executive, the assistant decided to, reach out to the travel agency to register the displeasure of the services they receive from the agency. And I guess the result that came out was not what this person was expecting. Yeah. So I'll say that from that response, when I saw it, and which was one of the reasons I picked it up to speak to it, the assistant hasn't done anything out of line in trying to make sure that his or her executive gets the best experience for an airline service like that, since they're paying for it. Okay. However, what we are not privy to from this feedback is the content of the message that was addressed to the Chief Operating Officer of the travel agency. We are not privy to the content. We're not privy to the context. We're not privy to the tone of the communication. We're not privy to the wordings. You see, because a communication is very, very delicate, okay, and tricky. And most times, if you're not careful, your intentions might not be properly conveyed, especially in a written communication. It might not be properly conveyed. So you have an intention, but your communication did not convey the intention. So like I said, we're only just going to postulate based on the information that we have. So the information that we don't have now is the context and the content of the message that got to the Chief Operating Officer of the travel agency that, triggered that person to say, okay, look, I think we're better off without a business. Let's discontinue the business. So one of the biggest lessons we must understand in communication is that it's not what you have to say is not more important than how you say it. So what you want to say, what you want to write, you can be dissatisfied with a situation and still convey it in one of the most calm, civil, polite way. Okay, so for instance, I will tell you 3 different words that mean the same thing that you can use in different contexts, and they will send different messages based on the context. You are upset with somebody. That's a word. You are dissatisfied. You are livid at something someone has done. You are infuriated by a particular person's behavior. So all of these words can mean the same thing, but they carry different weights within different contexts on how you use them. So, like I said, the assistant didn't do anything wrong, trying to flag a situation that is unacceptable. However, the content and context of the expression might also trigger a response or a reaction that you will not expect. Okay, so there's this other one. It says a meeting organized by my senior manager was to be imputed in the ED's calendar, but it was clashing with another meeting, which had been pre-scheduled. I wanted to move the pre-scheduled meeting because I gave more importance to the senior management meeting. I discussed it with the ED and understood that the meeting is pre-scheduled and the senior management meeting can be moved to a more convenient time slot. I was clear in my communication with the ED and made sure not to assume. So this was obviously a good experience. And then you see from this experience that this assistant did something that is very, very critical in communication. And I think most assistants, because of your work sometimes, and because of your understanding of the executive that you work with, there are a lot of things you are expected to do on your own to take initiative. However, there is a very thin line between taking initiative and making assumptions. So in the place of making assumptions, it is better for you to be clear. And when you are not clear about something or about anything, the best thing you want to do is to ask, clarify, don't assume, because that's not going to be okay. On the long term, you're not really going to look like the professional that you want to project that you are. Okay, so I think I'll just take one more. There was an urgent report required for the regional head, and I needed my supervisor to take a quick look at it before reporting. But it happened she wasn't on seat and was in transit for a meeting. So I had to call her and give her all the required details on the phone, and she made the necessary corrections, which I quickly corrected and forwarded to the regional head. So these are good examples of keeping your executive in the loop, no matter how urgent the situation is, and no matter the urgency and who really needs it. It's always a good experience for you to be on the side of caution. That's very important. Okay, so and having said that, I want to just quickly tell us that in my session today, we'll be looking at communication. This is important. We'll be talking about how we can effectively communicate with emotional intelligence. So we'll be looking at some of the challenge most people have about communication is to think that that you are able to speak well and or maybe write well. The biggest element of communication that most people miss and that most people have not developed the skill around is the ability to listen, actively listen, listening with being, present in your listening, not sitting down quietly, not saying a word, and people are assuming that you're listening, but you're not listening. You are actually just listening so that you can respond, listening so that you can argue, listening so that you can make your own point. The real essence of a great communicator is your ability to listen to understand. Listen so that you can understand what is happening, what your executive requires of you, and your ability to listen without your lenses of bias. That means you don't come with some meditated information. You don't come with your biases. You don't just come like an open book and listen and take it in. And the biggest proof of listening is reflection. You are able to reflect and then you take it in. Because when you take it in, you reflect, then you can put yourself in the speaker's shoes, and then your understanding comes from their own point of view. So we'll be talking about quite a number of things today in that area, and also looking at the importance of emotional intelligence in communication, especially since you guys work largely under very intense atmosphere in terms of pressure. And that's something you need to learn how to manage your emotions under very high pressure environment and still get out your best and still do your best. So I look forward to seeing you in the session much later as we go on. Femi, thank you so much, and I'll see you again.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Onikosi. I also want to thank participants for giving this situation, these scenarios. Many of the people online, they can relate to the scenarios and how they handled it. We are going to move to Mrs. Emanuela Tijani. For Mr. Onikosi, we're going to see him again by 12:50 today when he's taking a session on effective communication with emotional intelligence. Mrs. Tijani will review the responses, and then she will start a module on executive support 101. Mrs. Tijani, the floor is yours, please.
Yeah. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm not going to take time with pre-assessment workshop because I've taken enough time already. I would just ask that you please, I don't want any of the delays to dampen your morale. I want everything to be, I want us to revive. I mean, this is who we are as assistants. Things happen. When I used to assist my CEO, you would have planned a big event, something happens, and you just have to pick it up and make things go the right way. Okay, so it's that same energy I want us to maintain. I want to see in the comment section, how many years? That's one thing I didn't see in the responses. So I'm going to start with that. Just drop it as I continue. How many years experience are in this room? I want to see what is your level of experience. How many years have you worked as an executive assistant so that I tailor my presentation today? Aha, Timothy is known to me. Timothy of First Allah is known to me. He says 10 plus years. That's a senior assistant right there. Hats off to you. Okay, so let's go ahead. Please leave it in the comment section for me. Boluwasifa is 2 months. Okay. There's something for everyone in this training. 3 months, Dami, okay. 4 years, Timei. 1 year from Chima to Lokwe has 2+ years. Samson has 2+ years. Michael has 9 months. Okay, 4 months, 8 months. I'm seeing months. So they're newbies and they are, experienced EAs here. 4 months from Peter, UBA. Okay, so regardless of whether you started today or you have 10+ years like Timothy, I guarantee you that at the end of my presentation, oh wow, Adewale, special salute to you, 15 years plus as an assistant. Wow, that's a lot. You are the kind of people I like to call the career executive assistants. And just before I jump into it, there are people who are in the executive assistant role and they're taking it as a career. I mean, I know people who have worked up their way in their career for years. They've been in the executive support. And most times I try to recommend that if that is you, just ensure that you have a growing in your remuneration, you're growing in your responsibility, or you're growing in your title and what is expected of you. And here I mean the content of your role. But let me jump officially into the presentation for today. Kabir has 3 years. I'm really interested. I'm really happy to see all of this. There are people with 2 months. There are people with 15 years of experience. Wherever you fall, this is going to be useful for you. When I was reading through the responses, someone said, this is, wow, Peter from Globus is 17 years. And, oh, wow, 17 years. That's quite a lot. Okay, wherever you fall, there's something here for you. Femi has introduced me earlier. Emanuela Tijani is my name. I'm a certified world-class assistant. If you have any questions about that, because every time I say that in the room of assistants, people ask me, what does that mean? How do I get there? What does it mean to be a certified world-class assistant? I'm going to tell you if you find it interesting, but I'm not going to make it the main thing about this training. So let's jump into right why you left your busy schedule to come here. And I'm going to share my presentation in a bit. What I'm talking to you about today, Femi, can you enable screen sharing for me, please? I see that I've been disabled from sharing screen. I'd like to share my presentation, except you want to share it from your end. Thank you.
Yes, request and then I will enable you.
Okay, there's no way to request. I can only see okay here. And if you can just enable me from the back end, it will be useful. Great for us so that we can get started.
Okay, try again. You should be able to work now.
Working now. Thank you so much, Femi. I'd like a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Just a thumbs up will do. I see Zebedee raise his hand. Yeah, thank you. Okay, awesome. So today I'm going to talk to you about Executive Support 101, right? And someone who has 15 years or 17 years like Peter of Globus Bank might be saying, I mean, Executive Support 101, what do I need this for? When I was reading the responses, somebody wrote there that he wants this as a refresher. The module is going to be a refresher. And that's what this is going to be for you. Whether you have 10 years of experience or you have 15 years of experience, this is what this is going to be for you, right? It's going to be a refresher. Because I noticed that when you work as an executive assistant for so long, I have been an executive assistant. I assisted the executive director, finance and strategy. When he became the MD in 2018, he asked that I move with him, and he's now the MD of Sterling Bank. I worked with him for nearly 7 years, assisting him in that capacity. And in that role, I played a lot of roles. I was a project management person. I was a program management lead. I was many things before we both finally decided. My boss called me and said, Emanuela, see, this role can no longer contain you. We need your expertise. We need your passion for something bigger in the bank. What do you think that should be? I looked at my skills. I looked at my interests. I looked at what I like to do. And I told him, you know what? I'm willing to try out marketing. I mean, I've always been your EA. I've been assisting the marketing team in putting together your releases. If you want to have an interview, I put your interview together. I coordinate the interviews. I make sure that the release is edited and it sounds like you. So I got feedback from people then that, Emanuela, you could write like the MD and it will sound like we're listening to the MD. So I figured, okay, it looks like marketing will be something for me, but I don't want brand marketing. I want marketing that's going to test my muscle. So I went for product marketing. I became the product marketing manager of SME products for Sterling Bank in January 2023. In November, I was promoted to become the team lead of product and SME marketing, right? And why am I sharing this? It's just to show you that there's a world of possibilities out there for every executive assistant, personal assistant, technical assistant listening to me today. And this refresher is going to help you a lot in determining how you move, because all of us have different aspirations. If I ask you to start sharing what you want out of this role now, the people who are looking to move on to chief of staff role, the people who want to stay in the role, but they want a higher remuneration, the people who want a different role entirely, and they're wondering, how can I transition into another role? Let me just tell you before I kick off with my training, if you have any of this specific question, this is your opportunity to ask them during the question and answer. I've been where you are. I understand the issues that we face as assistants, whether EA, PA, or TA. I know the issues. I know the struggle to get approval to go and train, to be trained, right? I went through all of those. So if you have any questions during the Q&A session, even if it's not what I've covered here, please hit me with those. But now that I'm starting, I need your 100% concentration. Leave me a comment in the chat and say ready if you're ready. Ready if you're ready. Because I'm seeing people still responding to the executives, telling people I'm coming, I'm coming. EA work never stops. But give me the ready. Give me the ready if you're ready. I want to see the energy as I start. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Bolu Atife. Thank you, Erithiana. I hope I got your name right. Godwin Prince, Dabi, Eniola, and great, Ejiro. Sharon, Sandra. There are many people who are ready for me. Fantastic. Okay, I get right into it now. Okay, so this is Executive Support 101, and I want this to be interactive, which is why I keep telling you to talk back at me. I want you to be involved in this class. We're going to look at the fundamentals of the executive support role. What are the basics of the executive support role? People who have more than 10 years need a reminder. Those who have just started need to know what this role is about, beyond what your HR might have described it to be. Most human capital, most human capital professionals or human resource professionals, pardon me if there's anyone in the room, they just put one JD together. They want to make sure they get their money out of you. So when they're recruiting, they're going to go online, ask everybody, all your hiring managers to write what they want. And then they will write one long sheet and describe the role the way they want it to be. They will now add a line at the end and any other miscellaneous task as assigned, right? So many people who come into the role don't even know what the role is really about. They just know what the EA described it to be. What the HR described it to be. Some people only know that, I'm an assistant, I'm here to assist the boss, but they don't really know the content of the role. That's what we're going to examine today while we're thinking about the fundamentals of the executive support role. I was going to ask you who an assistant is to you, But because of time, I will get into it. I wanted to really hear from people. And maybe, in fact, I will go back and ask 2 people to please raise their hand and talk to me about what they believe who an assistant is. According to you, it can be, maybe we'll hear from 2 perspectives. I want to hear from someone who is just months into the role. I think Sandra or someone is 3 months or so into the role. And I think Mr. Peter, who has been 15 years or 17 years, Mr. Peter, am I correct? 17 years.
Yes, you are.
Fantastic. So I want to hear from both worlds. I want to hear from a newbie. I want to hear from a veteran like Mr. Peter. What do you think the assistant role is about? Who do you think an assistant is? Sandra, are you available to speak now?
Mr.
Or
Peter
someone
can start. Mr. Peter can, and Sandra can go after.
Okay, let me
All
start with
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, once again, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to say that being an assistant for me is a whole lot of things, and you are the second boss. What I mean, not in the exercise of power, but ability to coordinate and organize the executive. I've been able to handle executive in my career. I've been able to manage about 5 executives, and you have to deal with their personality, deal with their personal values, and also the job. So for me, I do not think that there is the job of an EA is not stereotype that because the individuals, because Mr. A behaved differently from Mr. B. So if you're an EA, thinking that what you knew when you work with Mr. A, then you now come to work with Mr. B. If you bring it, everything there without trying to know who Mr. B is, you're going to fail, because even what you learn in school or what they have taught you in trainings, you have to learn how it applies to the person you are working with, because the ultimate result is to satisfy your supervisor, your boss. And being an EA is ability to discover who the executive is. You know his temperament, you know his style of work, you know his system. So that I know I've worked with a boss who, if he has a presentation to make, he will be busy with other things until a night before the event, a night to the meeting. That's when we can close 1 a.m. So, but what I do is that I know that we have this meeting coming up, and he has not said anything about his presentation. I'll start putting things together. On that day, I can even call my wife and tell them I'm going to be working late, even because I know who he is.
Your boss
But
is.
Yeah, so if you do not understand his personality, you might get angry that he's keeping you late or he's shouting at you. And
It just can spiral.
yeah, so
Fantastic.
yes, like I also have another boss who, once it's under pressure, you are the first victim.
We can relate with that. I mean, if Mr. Peter continues, I don't know if anybody has seen the aides of presidents and governors talk before. I've seen a number of them. And when they talk, you will see that you don't joke with experience. That's the kind of way that that's the kind of vibes that Mr. Peter is giving me. You know, he's very confident and professional, and he's like, you have to be the second boss as an executive assistant. And I like that. There are many things he has said here that if we let Mr. Peter continue, I mean, he could as well take this training, and that's experience for you, right? He mentioned how an executive assistant is like a second boss, but not in the exercise of power. And I like that. He also mentioned about how, you know, bosses are different and how you take them are different, right? Those things are very important in understanding how an assistant operates, because an assistant to Mr. A cannot come with the same mindset when he's assisting Mr. B.
Sure.
Mr. Peter even gave us, you know, several examples of his bosses that boss A will wait until the last minute before he starts. Boss B will transfer pressure to you. if we start allowing everyone speak about their bosses, you will hear all kinds of things. I don't know how many of us as EAs have ever spoken to our bosses. You have 5 things to ask them, and you ask, boss, 1, 2, 3, I want your feedback on XYZ. Should I tell them to go and do this at the house? Should I get them to send this material to you? The strategy team said presentation is going to be at 5 p.m. Are you going to be available? Do you want me to bring this and that? And then after writing everything, your boss will write yes. And you're wondering, yes to which of them now? Yes to number 1 or yes to number 3, or what exactly is it? You know, these are
I can relate. I can relate.
Exactly, these are the interesting nuances. You ask somebody 5 questions on WhatsApp, you type it diligently, but that takes, you know, it takes understanding for you to know that that kind of person, there's a way to word. My boss, my former boss, once your boss, always my boss, you know, when I talked to him and I used to get yes to 10 questions, I then figured out what to do. I don't throw questions at him at once. I take the most important one and quickly put it. When he responds to that one, I would then put, instead of putting a WhatsApp message where you type number 1 to 5 at the same place, I'll type 1 in a different message, type 2 in a different message. Then he will start swiping and responding to each of them, right? But that's not what we're talking about. Thank you, Mr. Peter.
Okay, can I speak?
Just to
Oh,
confirm,
okay.
can you repeat the question? I want to be sure I'm supposed to answer for.
I would like you to tell us who an assistant is. So whether executive assistant, personal assistant, technical assistant, from your own point of view, from your own lens, who is an assistant?
Okay, from my point of view, an assistant just like is someone who assists the boss or the director, the executive director in my instance, and the person helps to lift the burden as much as possible, and also assist and guide, make sure that the executive assistant is able to run and function properly.
We can barely hear you, please.
Same thing, I'm struggling to
Can you
hear
hear
her.
So can you hear me much better? Or should I type? Maybe my network.
You can type. Okay, you can type. But I was able to make some things. You said an executive assistant assists the director is supposed to record meetings, something like that. I think I heard some things like that. Well, please type. I'd read as soon as it comes in. We can continue. But you see that from both lenses, you can see where experience comes into play. And I want us to take a lesson from this. I want us to take a lesson from these responses before we proceed. The way Mr. Peter defined an assistant is not how, I think I was Boliwasife or Sandra defined an assistant role. And it shows you in experience. Many people come to me and the first day they start working with their executive, they're like, I'm so tired. I don't know what to do. We're not working well. We're not communicating well. I said, give it time. Give it time. This is a relationship that is built on trust, as you will see soon. And trust doesn't come on day one. Trust takes time. And so when a newbie defines their role, they'll define it as I'm taking meeting record, I'm recording meeting notes, I'm doing this. But an experienced person would talk like he's the second MD because they've taken time to understand people and the nuances of the role. But I'm also telling you that it's possible to be months into the role and pick things quickly such that you're already beginning to function like a Mr. Peter. And we're going to see how it's possible in a short while. Okay. Who is an assistant? I like these 2 definitions because I think it gives a clear picture. And I'll tell you why I think it gives a clear picture from my point of view. Pro assistance state of the assistant, and they always write the state of the assistant manual every year. I don't know if they had for last year, but in one of the editions, they defined it as a mindset. They said being an assistant is a mindset. Having a servant's heart combined with the tactical skills, both technical and interpersonal, to lead, interact with, and serve leaders of an organization and represent them to people both externally and internally. This can sound like a mouthful, but let's break things down. Number 1, it's a mindset. It's a mindset. And what is that mindset? A mindset of servant leadership. And as an executive assistant, you need to lead, but you need to understand servant leadership because you need to have a servant's heart. Many people come into this role and they want to start becoming a boss from day one. I want to get into strategic roles. How do I get strategic functions? You need to start with the mindset of service. You're there to serve. You're there to serve. the executive and other people in that company. If I've seen a few assistants who do not have a servant's heart and they don't last in that role. I'm not telling you to go and buy food, go and make tea. That's not the kind of servant's heart I'm talking about. I'm talking about a heart of service that comes from the place of whatever needs to get done, I'm going to get it done because I'm here to serve. What do you need? It's not also taking too much that you cannot contain it again. I'm talking about serving from a position of, I'm here to deliver results for the executive, for the business, and for the team members in that order. Okay, and you combine it with the tactical skills, both technical and interpersonal. We're going to be looking at some of these skills in a bit. Interacting and serving leaders of an organization. You see that there is a part of interaction and there's a part of service. If you are someone who does, because service requires you to do, interactions requires you to communicate. If you do without communicating, you're not going to get the best of this role. If you communicate and you interact well without serving, you're not going to get the best of this role, right? So both of them need to come into place. And they now ended it with something that Mr. Peter said. You are like the representative of these people and the organization to people. Someone called me on the phone one day and said, do you work with Sterling? I've never spoken to him. I don't know this person. And I'm like, why? He said, Truecaller is bringing out your name as Emanuela Sterling. Some people say it's Emanuela Abu when I used to work with my boss. And that is because I'm a representative as an EA, both externally and internally, of the people that I represent, my company, my executive. So this definition is something I like. And we're going to, refresh when we go ahead in the class. The second is by Jeremy Burroughs. I want to see by show of hand. I cannot see them, but just show me by, just signify by a show of hand if you know who Jeremy Burroughs is. I want to know how much you're also taking to improve on yourself and learn about people, resources within this industry. You know Jeremy Burroughs? Please raise your hand. Anybody who knows Jeremy Burroughs? Just raise your hand. Femi, do we have hands raised?
Just mine. But yes, we'll have people.
That's the task it's one of the tasks I'm going to leave you with, because whenever I get into a room where there are executive assistants, because I was like you, I'm still like you because that heart is still here. I don't want us to just come into trainings. No one single training can give you the magic pill that you need to survive in this role and to succeed in this role. And I'm also not happy that there are people that have attended my coaching program before also saying that they don't know Jeremy Burroughs. What did you do with the list of resources I shared after my program? I'm not understanding what you did with it, but that's by the side, right? Jeremy Burroughs is the author of The Leader Assistant. That's one of the best-selling books for executive assistants, technical assistants, personal assistants. You can go and check it out after now. He wrote The Leader Assistant. He has a podcast called The Leader Assistant. That podcast is rich. Every episode is loaded. So beyond the things that your executives might have forced you forbidden training, or just said, attend and just hear one lady that they say her name is Emanuela Tijani, just get the certificate so that you can share it with HR and tell HR that you have done development. But that's not where the increase in remuneration is. So my people, I'm going to talk to you because this is my tribe. That's not where the increase in remuneration is. You need to consistently improve yourself. You need to know the industry. You need to know the resources you need to get ahead. So please check out the Leader Assistant podcast. You will find that it's very rich. So what does Jeremy Burroughs say? Jeremy Burroughs, the author and the owner of the Leader Assistant podcast and the book. He says that an assistant is actually a chaos tamer. We can relate with that one. Chaos everywhere. Sometimes you just come with your church mind to work before you know from 0 to 100 and you're running up and down, calling people you have no business calling. A culture creator. Why are you a culture creator? The way you behave is the way they perceive that your boss behaves. I don't know how many of us have gotten that feedback. You have acted in a way, and they say this person is acting because that's how the boss wants people to. The things that you give priority to, show people what your boss gives priority to. So you're a culture creator. You're a pulse taker. What does he mean by pulse taker? Your boss most times, whether you're supporting the GM or you're supporting the ED or you're supporting the MD, people will not say the truth to your boss most times. They won't. If your boss gets into a room, everybody becomes silent and they begin to tell him what he wants to hear. It's one of the leadership bias. If you learn about leadership, it's one of the leadership bias. People tell executives in power what they want to hear. They don't tell them the truth most times. And I'm going to be real as real can get. So you as an executive assistant, you are the pulse taker, not just for those people, but for people in your team. How do they really feel beyond the things that they say? What are the real root causes of the issues you're facing in your organization? You should know it. If you're not supporting the MD and you're supporting the issues you're facing in your department, because you can take the pulse of people more than your boss can. He's in a higher position, but you have the greater influence. People can be real with you if you have built your influence well. And we're going to talk about influence today as well. So you're a pulse taker. You are an inefficiency disruptor, a strategic partner. This English are a mouthful, but when you take them one by one, you will see that you should actually get here if you're an assistant. A fearless negotiator. I can't tell you how many times I've negotiated. You know, there was a particular time a department brought a quote. They want to get a data tool, and a company in the UK was going to help us, and they brought it. I said, no, this shouldn't be. And they told me, see, if you're going to take the conversation up, we're going to leave it to you to take up. I said, I'm very happy to. I got on a call with the leader of the people that we're going to work with. And after conversations, we brought down the costs. And I boldly went to them and said, see the new cost. They were amazed. They were shocked because in their mind, assistants don't really have businesses with all these kind of things, right? That's why tomorrow I'm going to be taking you beyond the basics. But let's stay with today, right? So this is who an assistant is, right? If you're asking for who an assistant is, now let's break it down because an assistant is not an assistant. Everybody take us as the same. People will see technical assistant, they'll call them PA. You are an executive assistant, they'll say you are a PA. You're an administrative assistant, they say you are a PA. You are even a chief of staff, they say you are a PA. Every time they call, can I talk to the MD's PA? Can I talk to the ED's PA? Everybody is a PA to everyone who is not an assistant, you know? And sometimes if they're not even kind enough to call you a PA, they'll call you a secretary. I don't know how many of us can relate. Please pass me on to the ED secretary. Many times when they say it, I pick up the phone and say, sorry, please, I'm the executive assistant. I'm not the secretary. I'm not a secretary, but it depends. I don't say that to everybody. You can't be talking to someone from the CBN. If someone from CBN calls and say, pass, I'm a secretary. If you say secretary, yes.
I can relate very well.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. If you say secretary, I'm a secretary. If you're from CBN, you say secretary, yes, I'm a secretary.
Yes.
That comes with stakeholder management, right? But who is a personal assistant? A personal assistant, and I also want you to be categorizing yourself by yourself. Because some of you
It's breaking. You can't hear, please.
Oh, can you hear me now? Valentine, is it better now?
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay,
Maybe
Valentine said he couldn't hear me. Maybe it's the network.
Maybe his network is not very strong.
Oh, okay, all right then. So some of us are PAs, but our title is EA. It's not bad, but it's for you to make sure you move your way into functioning as an EA, right? So I have someone who was recruited as an executive assistant. But guess what she does? It's unbelievable. You would think it's a joke. I've seen people in my line of coaching. I've seen different kind of people while coaching assistants. Somebody, I know the company she works with, but confidentiality will not allow me to reveal it. She gets a list of groceries to buy at the beginning of the week. The things she'll buy for the house. She gets a list of supplies to make to the house. She'll stock them in the fridge when she comes. She'll stock the remaining things in the pantry after she buys them. She's also responsible for picking her, principal's son from school. She's able to do other things. And she was recruited to be an executive assistant. I told her, you know what? You are actually functioning as a personal assistant. If you want to keep executive assistant in your CV, make sure you're also taking things by the side that allows you to understand who an EA is. If you're buying groceries, you're picking up principal's son from school, you're buying lights when it finishes. I'm not saying you can't do that and all of those things. And that's the only thing you're doing. You're more of a personal assistant. And that's not to bring down any role. Every role here can command upwards of 1 million naira. Every role here can command influence and respect that you've never expected or have never experienced. But what is the secret? It's to knowing their PAs that are so professional. When you work with them, every single detail they know about it. When I was an EA, I functioned as both a PA as an EA. And people who have worked with Sterling can bear witness. My boss could ask me things about his price, and I will just give it to you because I keep those things. When I see an email sharing a medical information, I have the permission to store it because they can ask me, do you have this document? Do you have the vehicle document? And I just go and bring it from the folder, right? So a personal assistant assists a specific person with their personal task. They know everything about who they are. Sometimes they even store their password for them, right? That's who a personal assistant is. An administrative assistant is someone who mostly assists the person or a team with clerical, organizational, and office management tasks. So they make sure that the office supplies are kept, up to speed. They make sure that printing paper don't run out. They make sure that technology is on point. Everything is connected. They are powerful administrative assistants today. I mean, there's a role I saw for one of these big companies, I think it's Google. They were recruiting for a senior administrative coordinator. That person is not going to earn small, but he must be someone that pays attention to details and ensures that everything is in place per time. When administrative assistants do their work well, you don't notice them. But when they're not there, you'll be asking, where's this person? Because when you come into the meeting room, the ambience, the things that are supposed to be in place won't be there. But when they do their work well, you would think that it's just like a hotel that is properly run. An executive assistant provides personalized support. And I underline the things that are the keywords there. Personalized support to mostly high-ranking individual. That's why they call them executive. Executive, because the people that they support are high-ranking. It could be a GM, it could be an ED, it could be an MD. It could even be a board. It could be, something executive, high-ranking, and they're also concerned with business-related tasks. Remember that a PA was personal. This one is more concerned with business-related tasks. A technical assistant provides specialized support. In the entire definition for technical assistants, the most important thing for you to note is specialized support, which means that you will see a technical assistant to the ED on credit, on credit. Why? An ED can start their job and they feel that I'm not really strong in credit issues. I need a strong hand. They won't hire an EA because an EA will be distracted with so many things that are related to the business. Sometimes the HR will tell you get a TA because a TA is someone who has technical, in-depth knowledge in that area that you want them to come in on. Some people have technical assistants that deal with performance management because performance management have become a big issue in the organization, and they want someone who has in-depth knowledge that is able to provide sound advice. They function like advisors. TAs function like advisors on specific knowledge areas, right? So this is the definition. If you have any question, please let me know. And please, Femi, if there are any hands raised, call my attention to it because I'm looking at my slides. Now we're going to go to the 10 basic rules for executive assistants. But please replace. Is Victoria trying to say something? Victoria, please mute if you're not trying to say anything. Thank you so much. Okay. Please replace executive with personal assistant if you're a personal assistant. Replace executive with technical if you're a technical assistant. Replace executive with administrative if you're an administrative assistant. But this applies regardless of your role. The extent, number one cardinal rule. Please follow me. We're going somewhere and we're going to need all of these things in our later slides. Number one cardinal rule for an assistant is that the extent to which you succeed in this role depends on your executive. Let that sink in. And I'm telling you, because of those who come, I've had people who talk to me and they're like, I'm not having a great relationship with my executive, but I can't stress myself. I have boundaries. I have this, I have that. I said, be careful. You might not last in that role. Because the extent to which you succeed in this role depends on your executive. It depends on your executive. Right? So you must be very, very, very careful when the relationship with your executive is going south. HR cannot save you in this matter. Because many things that you are measured by is qualitative and not quantitative. I'll tell you what I mean. If someone in technology is not having a great time, a software developer in technology department, if they're not having a great time with their executive, but they are really good, they can be saved. HR knows the outcome of their work. Because, I mean, if it's time to launch a product, they are the ones that are coding. If they're not there, some things don't get done. HR and other collaborators knows the value of their work. So even when the boss is trying to corner the person, HR will be trying to keep the person in because they know if they lose that person, it's going to tell on their digital products. As an assistant, you don't have that luxury of, visible impact. Your impact can be visible, but as much as your boss wants it to be visible. It's a sad truth, but it is what it is, my people. It is what it is. The extent to which you succeed in this role depends a lot on your executive. It depends a lot on your executive. I have someone who I'm working with now. She's having issues, to the extent that her executive is beginning to tell her things like, just get out, just do this, just do that, and she's really concerned. At a point in time, she's like, I'm not going to bother again. I'm just going to keep doing my thing. I said, which thing do you want to keep doing? If you keep doing it, you will soon receive. True to fact, she called me some days ago and said she's received a warning letter from HR. I'm like, it is what it is. HR does not listen to you as much as, because your executive is the reason they hired you in the first place. So the impact of your work is conveyed by the feedback from your executive. So that's why you need to take the relationship. And when Mr. Onikosi is taking his session about communication, please listen carefully, because communication is that bedrock of trust. And it forms a lot about your success with your executive, right? So the extent to which you succeed in your role depends on your executive, which is why you must prioritize your relationship with them. I'm not saying, people will use words like, so should I be sucking up? Should I be doing this? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying do things that are inappropriate or unprofessional, like what's it called now? Play nice service. No. I'm saying that be concerned and put effort into building that relationship to the extent that you get the trust that you want from your executive. I've not been in rooms. People have come to tell me when I was an EA, the way your boss talks about you. And I see it in the respect they accorded me when I was an EA. If you see me in person, and this is just for jokes, right? It's just light matters. If you see me in person, I'm not more than 4'9", right? That's my height, right? But the respect I get from people is more than my height and my, experience and age. Because the way that my boss brings me before people, he's like, see, whatever you want, talk to her. She's the one that will determine whether you get it, right? And that's because I've built that trust. And so people, when they're relating with me, relate with me as if they're relating with my boss. I hear people call me, as at that time when I was working with him, they call me my MD, but that's just by design. Second thing, the foundation of the relationship with your executive is trust. And so I always say, remember to ABC. Remember to always be communicating. That's what ABC means, right? Because if you don't communicate with someone, you can't really build trust with them. The third thing is the best thing you can give your executive is time. The next best thing is profit. And some people ask me questions in this line, along this line. Please, we can take them during the Q&A because I need to go, I need to move quicker. Second thing, or the fourth thing, is understand the business of your business and your industry. Now, with the new trends, people that we're trying to build now, the category of assistance, the level of assistance that is required for the industry now are business leaders with administrative background. Business leaders with administrative background. Business leaders with executive support background. Leaders who can stand as business leaders on their own. But the plus is that they have an executive support background. Those are the new crop of EAs, PAs, TAs, AAs that the industry is in need of now. Why? There's so many upsets in the industry, not just our industry, many other industries, that if you really want to succeed in your role, regardless of whether you're a PA or an AA or a TA or an EA, you need that knowledge of the business of your business. And when I say business of your business, I mean, what is the commercial equation of your business? How does your business make money? What is the content of your executives' work on a day-to-day? If you are oblivious to them, then you might not be ready for where we are headed towards in the executive support profession. Next thing is become a team player, not a taskmaster. Many people see the opportunity of an assistant role as an opportunity to just give tasks. You do that. The ED said you should submit this by 10. Make sure you give it to me. Yes, what's the update? Where we are headed, you need to be a team player. You cannot just be a taskmaster. You need to be a team player. Next thing is you are a cultural ambassador. You are the cultural ambassador of your team, your department, your organization. You need to live the part. That's one of the cardinal rules of this role. Then we go to get better at managing yourself. That's where you can manage others. You're in the business of management. You're managing people, you're managing resources, and that's essentially who you are. Eighth rule is protect your executive's time, image, and energy. Then always maintain confidentiality and professionalism. Finally, do what it takes, but do it excellently. Because I've heard a number of people say, this is not part of my role. This is not part of why I was hired. I'm like, in this role, you have to do some things. You have to do what it takes, but you just need to ensure that you do it excellently well, right? I'm going to pause here before I go ahead. I like to interact with people that I'm in a training with. So if you're with me and you're still with me up to this point, please leave a yes in the comment section. You're with me up to this point, please leave a yes. Because the question is, are you with me? Leave me a yes in the chat. I see the chat go up. Fantastic. There are many people in this training, 77 people that said, now I want the number to get up to at least 50. So I know that at least 50 people are still with me. Because what we're talking about today, very crucial. Very crucial. And I know it's common. EAs, they cannot stay still in the training. Even PAs, TAs, they can't stay still in the training. Anytime it's time for training, that's when they'll say, I cannot. They need me. They need me. But even your own life needs you. Your life requires that you earn a lot more money. And that's part of what we're going to, that this kind of training is what it is. Your own life requires that you gain a lot more knowledge and technical proficiency. So also prioritize yourself in this case. Please pay attention. Your company needs you, your boss needs you, but even your own life needs you. You need this kind of knowledge to actually get ahead in the role. Okay, so I have 36 years, or at least 35 years, so I know that more people, a number of people are with me. Please let's get that number up. Type yes if you're with me, so that I'll be sure that more than half of us are still with me here. Okay, because we're about to go into a segment that is crucial, and that segment is about building synergy with your executive. Building synergy with your executive. What do I mean by synergy? I mean, the way that if you're shaking the hands of a person, the way the hand just enters seamlessly. This is how I mean when I say synergy. So I mean that you are able to build a fluid relationship. You're able to build a seamless relationship with your executive. Remember that the cardinal rule we started with is that your success is determined to a large extent by your executive. Then we also spoke about how the relationship with your executive is built on the foundation of trust. Many challenges that we face today will be better resolved if we have a better working relationship, or we even have that synergy with our executive. Okay, so that's why it's important when talking about Executive Support 101, we must touch on this topic. So far, I've taken you through the definition, who you should be. If you haven't gotten there, you should work your way towards it. We've looked at the rules, the 10 basic rules of the executive support role, and now we're going into building synergy with your executive, okay? I'm going to repeat it again, that the foundation of the executive and assistant relationship, it's trust. So we must build trust. Many struggles that I see assistants face today is the issue of lack of trust. They're not being trusted, not just by the executive, but by the team that they work with. They're not trusted, not just by the team, but by the business itself. And so I see the responses from people. I saw the responses from many of us. I asked that we rate our relationship with our executive from a 1 to 10. I'm so happy that many of us have up to 10. I saw a number of 10. I saw 9. The least I saw was 5. The least I saw was 5. So I think I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm talking to a group of people that already have that trust with the executive. But we still need to touch on this topic, because this is practical, what is happening to assistants in the role today. I was speaking with an assistant who was struggling with something, and she said, why is it that when my boss wants to pass a message, she passes the message to HR, HR will then pass the message to me? It's a matter of trust. You need to build that relationship to the extent where you are the first point of contact for many things that your executives would need. I've seen people who say, something is happening in my boss's business or in the company, and people get to find out before I find out. Now, it's not only trust in this case. It's either you're not paying attention as you should, because there are two kinds of attention you should be paying when I'm not going to be the one taking communication, but when you want to gather information, which is important in the role that you're occupying today, you need to take two kinds of information very seriously. The one that you get from talking with your boss. And when I asked the question, how do you prefer to relay information to your boss? I saw a lot of face-to-face. And the constraint with face-to-face is that face-to-face limits you to an extent, because it's only what your boss remembers to tell you per time that you will get. And they don't remember a lot of times because their lives are very busy. So if you're someone that is relying solely on face-to-face communication with your boss, you need to then ensure that you find other sources of information to gather the intelligence that you so need to function in this role properly. You need industry information. You need business information. You need company information, not just for your role, but for what is going on around you in your team, in the wider company. And you cannot depend on face-to-face communication to get that. Okay, so beyond what they tell you, the second way of communicating and gathering information is observation. Observation and reading up on your own. You cannot depend on HR or your boss to give you information per time. You need to be someone, which is why when Jeremy Burroughs was defining an assistant, he said he's a pulse taker. You're able to observe what is going on. Of course, in the banking industry today, you know that things are changing. So if you assist an MD, I saw a number of people introduce themselves and say, I work with the MD. If you work with an MD or the ED, you must be concerned about the latest trends. And no MD or ED is going to come and call you and say, you know what, Victoria, let me tell you the issues we're having now in the banking industry. The banking industry is carrying us to where we do not know, take us where we don't know, because now people like OPay, people like MoneyPoint, people like this and that are taking market share. You know, this and this economic conditions is eating into our revenue. Our products are not. Nobody's going to come and have that meeting with you. As an assistant who is assisting an ED at the very basic, right? Even if it's not in the banking industry, because I saw a number of people write, it's not in the banking industry. You need to be concerned about the trends. and understand that that information is on you to find, right? So let's get into building synergy. And remember I told you that the kind of executive support professionals that we must build and that our industries and the business world urgently needs today are assistants that can stand on their own as business leaders, but with an administrative background and with administrative skills. Okay, here are the 5 C's of trust. Because while you might think that you're on a 10 because your boss calls you whenever they have an issue, you might not be a 10 when it comes to building trust with the team. There are 3, there are 3 levels across which you must build trust. You must build trust with your executive. That's the most critical and crucial and important. You must build trust with the immediate team that you work with. Whether you support the ED, MD, GM, there's a team they're responsible for. You must build trust with that team. Then you must build trust with the business, other employees, and the wider business, right? And so while you might have built trust with your executive on a 10, are you on a 10 for business? Are you on a 10, when it comes to the team that you support or that your executive has, direct responsibility for? So we're talking about those 3 levels when I talk about trust. I'm not just talking about your executive. And the 5 C's of trust is number 1, connection, 2, communication, 3, character, 4, competency, 5, confidence. As you see what applies to you, please take them. Mr. Onikosi will dive deeper into communication, but I'm just going to skim all of these 5 C's so that you pick that which is your point and begin to note the areas that you must work on, right? When I talk about connection, let me try to explain it. If I come into this room and I've built connection with some people, for some people, I'm not yet there, and it determines how well they're listening to me now. Some people who have not connected with me are just putting me on the background. Maybe their phone is playing and they're typing meeting notes and doing some other things, but some people have connected, but they're doing those things because the job is what it is, right? But I'm telling you that connection is something that you just connect with people. That's the basic level of it. It's not exactly like ability, but it's the fact that there's something that this person has done that makes you connect with them. And I'll tell you some points that you could use to replay. If you find that you're not connecting with your team, because we're talking about the 5 C's of trust. As executive support professionals, you need to build that trust. And one of these C's is responsible for why you have not built that trust. So find yours and work on it. 1 is connection. And you see connection with being yourself. If you're not yourself, if you're not authentic, people will struggle to connect with you. I see people, there's a lot of talks about boundaries from assistants today. It's not exactly how I work, but I mean, different people with different strokes. People are like, I have boundaries. Nobody should go beyond their boundary. I'm an EA, true, but nobody should go beyond their boundary. But I'm saying that you must be yourself if you want to connect with people. You must be yourself. Secondly, you must learn what and who is important to your executive through observation and communication. I explained these 2 levels for you earlier. I said sometimes your executive can give you direct feedback and say, this is what I want. This is who is important to me. This is what is important to me. Sometimes they will not give you that direct feedback. It depends on you. You must then observe. I'm telling you how to build connection. 1 way is to be authentic, be yourself. 2nd way is to learn what and who is important. If you don't know what and who is important to your executive, you will not really, especially at the beginning of your relationship with them, you will struggle to build connection. Because you are focused on something else. They are focused on, something else matters to them. Both people and task matter to them. You are focused on one thing, they are focused on another. 1 way is to directly ask, what are the major things you'd like to focus on? Who are the key people I should pay attention to? Who are your key stakeholders I should? Sometimes they'll tell you, and if you have people who communicate very well, right? They're people who are green. When it comes to color characteristics of communication, and I'm not the one to take communication, but let me touch on this briefly. There are people who are red. There are people who are yellow. They are green and they are blues. I learned it in my, world-class assistant certification. A green is analytical. They will tell you everything you need to know. You can even be taking notes and they'll be telling you. A red doesn't have time for that one. So if you're depending on them to tell you everything you need to know, they will not tell you. It is on you to take notes as things happen. So observation is important. When I started my role, I was going to be a temporary assistant. I had never been an assistant before. The person before me was going on maternity leave. So they said, you know what, Emanuela, just for 3 months, come and be the assistant to the ED. When she comes back, you will go back to your normal relationship management role. I said, okay. I entered the role. And one of the first things the lady told me was, Emanuela, this particular guy likes to disturb the ED. Make sure that you don't allow him to enter inside the office. Make sure that anytime he comes, you send him back. Because every time he comes here, he'll spend 2 to 3 hours disturbing the ED. Everything she said, I kept on saying, you know, okay, I mean, I'm new. You don't want to say like you're the boss. You learn everything you can. I said, okay, noted. But as a person, I'm more perceptive. I like to pay attention to what's going on around me. I like to read the room. So the first day this person came, if I had listened 100%, I would have said, please go back. The person before me said, you must not come here. Every time you come and waste the ED's time. He said, oh, I'm here to see the ED. I said, okay, go in. The ED said, he's expecting you. He went in. Just 3 minutes into coming in, my boss, who was moody that day, started laughing out loud. I said, in my mind, I said, this person, they said, is disturbing the ED. Why is he laughing like this? Someone that was moody and, you know, something upset him, and now he's laughing out loud within 3 minutes. They spent time together. When he left, my boss was in a good mood, very good mood. The next time he came, I let him in again. Before you know, they are laughing, they are joking. Every time he leaves, my boss's mood is like, you know, on 100. And this is the same person they said I should not allow inside the office. So, you know, this person and I built a relationship. We started talking. When I spoke with him, you cannot guess what I found out. He later confided, he told me that, see, people, like, we have declared this formally, but only a few people in HR know. This guy that you call your ED is the one that carried me when I was young. You know, he's the one that raised me. He's my uncle, he's my father's, and he carried me when I was young. He raised me. So this is our relationship. We are like, we know ourselves. This is from home. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody from home should be allowed inside, but it means that if I was not paying attention to the nuances, why is this person like this? Why does the ED's mood lift when he finishes with? I would not have gotten the clue that these people know themselves beyond work. He said, when I was a baby, like when I was a child, this man practically raised me, you know. So that's why even beyond the professional requirements, I know him beyond this, right? So you won't get that by just playing according to rules. You get that by observation. Knowing what and who is important to your executive per time, right? Next thing is feel. To build connection, you need to empathize and show some emotion. You cannot work like a robot if you want to build connection. You cannot say, oh, yes, good morning. Here are the things you have for today. Do you have any other thing? Yeah, noted, and you go outside. You need to empathize. You need to show some emotion. You need to show that you're human to get the best. There's some people that have never seen their boss, you know, they've never seen anything from their boss apart from work. You need to build that relationship where once they get connected with you, they're able to let their guard down and show you some sides that, you know, not many people are privy to. And let me also say something when it comes to connection. Because of your role, the role that you occupy, it is very possible that you get to see your boss the way that other people don't get to see them. I will break it down because, again, I'm with my tribe. We need to take these things one after the other. A particular lady that I'm coaching now, she spoke to me and said that she's having issues with her boss. And the next thing she was telling me was, it's not even like she's everything that people, it's not even like she's the way people are thinking she is. It's somebody that everybody respects her, people are giving her all the respect, but this same person that if you know her, she does this. I said, no, don't go there. That privilege of information you have is because of the role you occupy. The way people see her, the way they perceive her is different from that privilege you have. It's just like when you marry someone. People can be calling them celebrities and be, you know, giving them all the, but you've seen them, you know them beyond who they are on social media. You know the weaknesses that they have. So don't take that privilege of information for granted, right? Because when people start to build connection, that is one area they make a mistake. They start letting what they've seen, the privilege of the access they have to these people, affect how they perceive and work with them. So they start building some animosity, maybe because they know some weakness that these people have. So don't take the privilege of connection for granted. The access you've been given is because you've built connection. They are who they are outside. You know, what you have, it's a privilege. And don't mistake that to misconstrue that and say, okay, you know, this person doesn't even deserve all the respect, you know. So finally, build great relationship with the wider team. You're not just there for only your boss. You must build great relationship with the wider team. That's how you build connection, because your boss is not talking to you alone. He's also talking to some people. Some people come into the meeting and they give him feedback on who you are and, you know, how you have been functioning in that role. So prioritize building great relationship with the wider team if you want to build connection, right? And so the connection we just spoke about is not connection of who you know. I meant connection of how are you able to build that connection between you and your peers. Second thing is communication. And because we have someone dealing with this in depth, I'm just going to skim through it. You must understand your executive's preferred medium and style of communication. The sheets there are the two sheets I saved on my system from my world-class assistant certification. It showed the different kind of styles of communication according to color coding: red, green, blue, yellow, and the characteristics. If there is time, just remind me, I'll put it up and we'll just go through it briefly. And you just get some insights from that. Your executive has, you know, a different, you know, they have their own preferred medium and style of communication. They have their preferred medium and style of communication, right? And you must understand what that preferred medium and style of communication is. Many people chose face-to-face, but I was almost tempted to ask you, did you arrive at that by talking to your boss and understanding what they prefer? Or is that just what you prefer because face-to-face is easier? Right? So you must understand your executive's preferred medium and style of communication. Do they like calls? Do they like WhatsApp text messages? In different situations, what would they have liked? How would they have liked that you pass information to them? When I was reading the feedback, I saw someone say my boss was having an important meeting and I had an important customer who visited, and I didn't know how I had to pass the information, so I wrote it on a paper and I took it into his office. There are bosses that you must never do that. No matter who is waiting to see, you must never interrupt a meeting physically. Like coming to the office when they're having a meeting, you must never do that. So you must understand. And sometimes you need time to understand that. You can ask questions and they'll tell you, but you still need time to understand their preferred medium and style of communication. My boss, after working with him for a while, I figured that you must never give him work that is not important in the morning. He likes to focus and do important work in the morning. So if you're scheduling a meeting for him and you then schedule a meeting to see the president of something shareholders association, you put it in the morning, he's not going to like it because he's someone that uses his morning for focused work. He needs it for business work that impacts business. So make sure that the meetings that you're scheduling for him at that time are meetings that impact the business. They are mission critical meetings that will move revenue forward, that will move crucial matters in the business forward. So that comes with communication. You must also schedule regular check-ins. If you have not scheduled this already, and I know some of you schedule this, and your boss will just change it and say, fix this meeting for 2 p.m. And you're like, but our check-in is for 2 p.m. on Friday, you know, but you must also train your boss to have those one-to-one. You might not wait for a specific time. You can just go in and talk to your boss and say, you know what, here and here and here are what I have. Check in on them, ask critical questions and request for updates, do review on goals, you know, offer support. I only listed these things Because whenever I say schedule regular check-ins, some people tell me, what should I be doing during these check-ins? That's why I put these points underneath. If you're wondering what you should be doing during check-ins, these are what you should be doing during check-ins. How are you speak to, just checking with them to know how they're doing. If your boss is not a red, please, if your boss is a red, don't start with how are you. They don't send you. They don't want your how are you. They're, command and control. They don't need your how are you, how is everything, the family, is everything going well? Did your wife cook this morning? I hope nobody's asking that question though, but they don't need all those soft questions from you. They only need you to get straight to business. So you can reorder this based on your preference, your boss's preference, But during this time, please ask your critical questions. This is the time when you should have their 100% focus. Ask the critical questions and the updates you require. Get them at this time. Review goals, offer support, find out where you can offer support, and then also check for, informal 360 feedback, right? And then finally, always close the loop. I put this communication tip because many people are suffering from not closing the loop with their executive. The reason why some of you here have not built trust is that you have not closed the loop. You don't close the loop. What do I mean by closing the loop? They ask you to do something. I don't know if anybody, please give me a show of hand if you have experienced this before. Your boss said, can you check with this department if they can get this presentation ready, or if they already have this figure from this. You say, yes, sir. You now go on to the department. You ask for the information. They tell you that, okay, yes, we have the information, but we are waiting for feedback from so person before we can give your boss the final information. Because you have that feedback, you feel like, okay, I'm going to wait because I don't want to go with incomplete feedback. I'm going to wait till the end before I tell my boss that this is the feedback. So you leave it. You don't say anything. In the evening, your boss will now say, what's going on with this? Do you have the feedback now? You now say, oh, I spoke to them. They said that I should wait, that they're going to get back to me on XYZ. They're trying to get some information. You're already eroding trust because you didn't close the loop. You left the loop open in the person's mind. How many of us have experienced this before? Just by show of hand. Let me see a quick show of hand.
Yes, someone in the comments, Timmy, Yin, yes.
You see? So people, you need to close the loop when you're communicating with your executive and with people generally. Always close the loop. What you know in your mind, they don't know. Because some people are like, but I was going to come back to you anyways. I just wanted to gather everything now. You know it, but they don't know. So when people like that give you tasks, always make sure that you're closing the loop in their minds. Because when somebody gives you a task, you have open brackets in their mind. That's what is called the loop. They have opened a bracket. They're waiting for your feedback or the next line of action to close the bracket. That's why responding to emails on time is critical. Because the person has opened a bracket in their mind. They're just waiting for your response to say, okay, acknowledged, I'm working on it, to even close. And when you say acknowledged, I'm working on it, they are waiting to finally close it. They're waiting for you to say, I've spoken to them. This is what they said. The next steps is to do this. I'll provide feedback when I have it. Always close the loop. It affects communication. Always close the loop. Somebody was telling me of how her boss was traveling and that she was going to book all the flights, taxi and everything with her. She asked her to book it. But because they've been using the same person every time she travels, she felt her boss should know that this person is going to come and carry you at this time now. He's going to pick you from the airport as usual now. He's going to take you to this hotel in Abuja as usual now. So she did not say anything. She just went on to make the arrangements and left. And the boss told her next morning, why did you leave me hanging yesterday? And she was like, I thought that, I already spoke to Mr. Hassan to come and pick you. I already told this person that your hotel is this. But you should have told me that you made this. What if I wanted another, I had some changes. You should have come back to me and say that you've booked. They're going to pick you. That is the benefit of closing the loop. The more that scenario happens, the more you're eroding trust because communication is powerful. That's a means by which they measure your reliability. So always close the loop. when you're communicating with your executive and with key stakeholders. Don't leave people hanging. Sometimes it's because there are people that should do something, that should do something that they have not done it. And you are now saying, okay, I'm just going to leave it and let it go like that because I don't want to look like, you don't want to look bad, but that person is waiting on you. Even if it's to say we're not going to go ahead, close the loop because your reliability is being measured real time by those things. Okay, so always close the loop. That's the thing final thing for communication. For character, keep your commitments. Some of these things are affecting the way you are perceived. Is affecting the trust that you're building, both with the executives and with the larger team. Keep your commitments. When you say you will do this, do that, which is one of the reasons I was really concerned at the beginning of this training. I was ready for this training. I was 100% committed to it. So when the hitches started arising, I needed to start pleading with Femi. I said, please, this is not what I planned. I'm always professional. This is not me. I just that things happened and upset my plans. But I'm going to take it. Just don't worry. I'm going to be here. Whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. And I had to quickly go for plan B. You know, so keep your commitments. It's very important. When you say you're going to do this thing at this time, keep it. It's easier to say than it is to do. But each commitment you make, in fact, there was a time I was struggling with this a lot, and I'm going to be honest with you. At the beginning of my career, I was struggling with it. I felt if I've given you, if things change, you should understand now. So I was struggling with it. I had to get a book. I call the book Commitment Tracker. So anytime I tell you yes, or I say I'm coming back to you at 5 p.m., I will write it down because I want to make sure that I come back to you. It was affected. I kept getting that feedback from people as at that time. You know, when you tell people that you're going to make sure it's really, because to you is something small, but to the person that you made the commitment to is very big. That's why there are many of us here that even since 2000 and something, when we finished school, we still remember the uncle that said they were going to get something for us, but they did not get it because they didn't keep their commitments. So you must keep your commitments. It's very important, especially to the receiver. You as the person giving all the commitments might not take it important, but the person receiving at the receiving end is important to them. Second thing about character, maintain a professional and positive attitude. Maintain a professional and a positive attitude. Things might not go the way that you want every time, but don't be that person that they know you as someone who is just not positive. You're not professional. You call some people and they pass the aggression of that day to you. Yes, yes, yes. I call some assistants. Maybe they say, book meeting with this person. So I call an assistant and the person is like, apologies. And the person is like, yes, who is this? I'm like, are you sure this person is an assistant? I'm not sure. Because as an assistant, you don't know who will call. You don't even know who's going to get through to you. Just maintain a professional and positive attitude at all times. Imagine that the lens of your executive is upon you at every time. And act accordingly. Every email, every call, every feedback should be treated, even the way you speak in the midst of people, utmost professionalism. And you must keep a positive attitude. You can't be an assistant and you'll be caught in the midst of people talking about things like, this company safe, I don't even know where it's going to. You know that the issues that the organization is facing, but you cannot be the person because you're a culture creator. You can't be someone that is now going to be the one, pessimistic, not a positive attitude. You're just talking, I don't even know. The other day, they just passed this one up for promotion. They gave this one promotion. See this one now. And when did he join the bank? What has he been doing for the bank? And then you're also joining the conversation. You're also saying things like, and giving the privileged information you have based on your role, telling it to people outside. Somebody that the supervisor even sent an email to the ED that day saying, this is confidential. This is just for us here. And you are saying this is just for us here. It's just for us to note. I'm not saying this outside, but just for you have already betrayed, one of the rules of the executive assistant role, which is to maintain professionalism at all times. Because the professionalism you display is going to reflect in how people rate you based on character. You need to be consistent. Don't keep your commitment today and tomorrow you're not keeping it. Then you need to respect your team members. That's the final thing. Let's go on to competency. That's one of the other C's. And in competency, I say that if you want to build trust, one of the first things you must do is to get your leader a quick win using the particular skill you were hired for. I'm going to break this down a bit. Some of us were hired based on, our communication. We were kept on the role based on, something that we know how to do more than many other assistants. To build competency, which is a key factor when it comes to trust, you need to give your leader a quick win. You might not be able to do everything in the role, but you must be able to get your leader a quick win. So let's say you are someone who has very good communication skill. You must put that communication skill to work and use it to achieve a result, especially if it's a crucial area that your boss needs to grow in. I have the ability to write and to speak. So one of the ways I helped, I supported my boss at that time. On LinkedIn, I saw myself as his personal PR assistant. And if you're active on LinkedIn, you would have seen some of my posts those times. I would write stories about what he's doing, about the great things that he's doing. I'd write story about how he's riding a train and engaging with his people. Just interesting stories that endear people to this person and by extension the organization, and gives them an insight into who we are as an organization. That's something I have as a skill, and I was able to use it to get him a quick win. The more he saw those things, the more people gave feedback on those things. The more these people said, you know what, this person is even more than just, there's something here. She's competent, okay? You need to be thorough. Reduce the error rate in your work. Some of us, our biggest issue with trust is that error rate is so high. You type a document, there's always 1,000,001 things to correct. Okay? Also, you need to show what else you can do for your boss, because not many know how to work with assistants. Sorry, I think I got a message. Okay. All right, noted. Let me run now. Show what else you can do for your boss. I'm going to run through the rest of my presentation so we can go to Q&A. I already have a few minutes more here. And if there's any question that you have on anything I wrote here, please bring it up during the Q&A so that we can make the most of time. Okay, confidence is one area. Some of us have the 4 other C's, but we don't have confidence. We're not able to have confidence, conversations with our executive. We're not able to have confident conversations with the team. You must be confident. You must be able to, and one of the secrets of confidence is that if you don't lead yourself first, you cannot instill confidence in others. So understand that you must lead yourself first, learn how to lead yourself, try to insert yourself wherever you can. Don't wait for permission. That's how you build for comment. People are waiting to be invited to do this. Okay, as an EA, you're waiting to be invited to special projects. When I was an EA, I asked human capital for projects that I find interesting and I want to be a part of. That's how you build confidence. Insert yourself wherever you can, but don't be seen as, someone that is just in everybody's face trying to do everything. Try to insert yourself wherever you can. Always be prepared. And I'm going to take time here, right? Before we then move on. Always be prepared. Do the pre-work. Do the pre-work. Make sure that when you have meetings, you see meetings, presentations from your boss, there are opportunities for you to show that you have done the pre-work. Before your boss climbs a big stage, make sure you have gone ahead to think. Travel, meetings, presentations, all of those are opportunities for you to show how much you can do the pre-work. Don't let your boss go for any trip or put himself out in the spotlight without you doing the pre-work, making sure that everything is prepared. Everybody is in their place. Everything he needs to do. There was a time I remember my boss was going to go to a new country he has never traveled to for the first time. Guess what I did? Because I know that he loved cars, and I'm giving you a practical example for how you must be prepared. That shows your confidence and your competency. It's a combination of confidence and competency. He was going to travel to one country for the first time ever. I went on to check the hotels that had the things that he liked. He's someone that likes automobiles. I saw a car that had I saw a hotel that had an underground car showroom. And he was so happy. I gave him like 5 options. I said, look at the pros of this hotel. Look at the cons. Choose one based on this, because he's never been to this country. He doesn't have anywhere that he knows that he could stay, so that he will say, okay, I'm going to go to this place. I've stayed here before. So I gave him the hotel options based on the things he would like. I said, choose from here. In that same document, I told him about the weather. I said, weather prediction for the next, because he's never been to this country before. I said, weather prediction for these days that you'll be here says this and this and this. Make sure you take this. Make sure you take this kind of clothing so that you will not be surprised in that place. I'm to the very end of, this is what they use for translation at the airport, because it was a country that had another language. So please use this when you go there, so that you're not caught up. You might think that there will be people that understand English, but you don't want to be. I put everything inside a PowerPoint. And when my boss read that document, he said, who gave you this? How did you come about this? But it's the benefit. It's the power of doing the pre-work. You've already gone scenarios ahead of your boss to know that this person is traveling for the first time. He will have issues with language, with accommodation, with this, with that, and you're already preparing yourself. It shows your competency and it helps you to build confidence. When you have an opportunity to represent your boss in a meeting, do the pre-work. Don't be the one where they ask, tell us again, what was the figure for that last month? Because I've been in meetings with my boss where he'll just tell you, Emanuela, tell me, what's that new thing that they launched again? And imagine that you're now fumbling. When because you don't know the answer, you say, sorry, I had network issues. Always do the pre-work. And so because Mr. Onikosi is going to talk about communication, I'm going to breeze through this part. Leverage communication for success. I have a lot here, but because of time, please look through. Communication, like I said earlier, is the foundation of success in this role, right? So you must ensure that you communicate very well. And communication is important because of accuracy, building trust, problem solving, anticipating needs, and then building strong relationships. Elements of effective communication, which I'm sure Mr. Onikosi will do justice to later, is clarity and conciseness. You need to be clear. You cannot communicate and you have 1,000 points jumbled here and there. Clarity and conciseness, active listening, adapting communication styles. I really wish I can have time to show you that communication styles document that we used during our certification. But all of these things are important for effective communication. Professionalism as well as proactive communication. Effective communication deals with time. And that's why when I was reading through communication scenarios from most of you here, you would see that in this role, our role is time sensitive. And that's why effective communication is proactive communication. Effective communication is not reactive communication. People want to be communicated to ahead of time. You're going to have this issue, let us know. There's going to be this, tell us ahead. Proactive communication is effective communication, which is why many of the instances that we wrote while filling the pre-assessment, the pre-workshop assessment, something like, I wasn't able to respond to an email on time. My boss sent me a message. I dropped the ball on a presentation slide, because effective communication is proactive communication. So all of these things are elements of it. I also put some things here about how to gain and use influence as an assistant, because after you have built trust, after you have gone through the 5 C's, what should you do with the trust? I'll tell you. What you do with the trust is to gain influence and to use influence. It's important in your role. Many of the blockers that you remove for things to move forward is because of the influence that you have gained from the trust that you have built. Now follow me. The trust that you have built with the 5 C's will help you gain influence, also help you use the influence. Because I've seen people who say, how do I elevate? People just see me as just an assistant. And we're going to talk more about it tomorrow. How do I make sure that, people begin to respect me and recognize the contribution I bring in this role? It comes down to influence. And if you want additional resources, please don't end it here. Go and read books on influence. Read Key Person of Influence. Read persuasion. Read quite a number of resources that are very valuable in teaching you about influence, because you need it in this role. So how to gain and use influence. I'm going to breeze through because it's just one part of it. We're going to delve into it more tomorrow. And I'm sure that, I'm nearing the time where we must go for Q&A before we take our break. So to become a person of influence, you must become a better communicator. And influence is not about manipulation. When people talk about influence, talk about how to manipulate people. It's not about manipulation. It's about using your knowledge, your skills, and your relationship to create positive outcomes and support your executive success. It's not about manipulating people. So because you know that you have influence, you will now sell things to them. You will just promote things to them that you shouldn't even have any business with. It's that you're using the level of connection and relationship, better outcomes for your executive and the business. Okay, so I have a few slides here before I thank you for your time. So let's just go through them and I'll yield the floor back to Femi, who will take us through the next segment of this. So how do you build influence? Number one, become an expert. And somebody's saying how? Because the role of an assistant is to be a generalist. Many assistants that succeed in this role are generalists. So how can I then, why are you now asking me to become an expert when I should be a generalist? What I mean by that is become an expert in the industry, become an expert in, the content of your role, of the organization, of the business. That's how you build influence. Become an expert in the content of your executive's role. Develop strong communication skills. Share your work. Share your work. It also comes back to closing the loop that I mentioned to let people know what you're doing per time. Most people don't even know the content of our roles as executive assistants or personal assistants or technical assistants. But always be willing to record and share your work with your executive and other key stakeholders. It's going to help you build your influence. I was telling you about how I was able to negotiate with one of our partners that was going to work on a data project. I made sure that that's reflected in my achievements, because you need to let people know what you're doing. It's not just about, oh, I'm booking meetings, I'm clearing the calendar, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Those are very critical. But I'm saying let people also know, share your work with others, build relationships. Build relationships upwards, sideways, and even downwards. Don't be focused on only the orgas. Build relationship across every area. Be an efficient pulse taker, because you don't know where you need it. Don't build with only executives and say, those ones are my business. What's my business with you mere mortals? Now, I'm a mere mortal. I'm now working as the team lead for product and SME marketing. Imagine that I didn't build certain relationships. I still work in 2 places today. And people have called me. I will not tell you it's 100, because some people are relating with you the way they're relating with you now because of the role you occupy. When you get out of that role, that's when you will truly test your influence. Okay, so build relationships, become a problem solver, and deliver results. Deliver results. And tomorrow, in case you're asking, what kind of results should I be delivering in this role? We're going to talk about it tomorrow. So please be sure that you come on time and get your writing materials ready. There's a lot to cover tomorrow, but let me just take my final slide before I thank you for your time. So how do you use your influence? Through strategic information sharing. They've told us that this role is about confidentiality. But I tell you, there are some instances where you must share strategic information with your executive and with other people to make sure that things are going the way. There's a way to share strategic information. Information that you know that this person needs it, but this person does not need it. For this person to function and deliver this result we need in our business, we need to give him this information. Okay, I already see Femi's video. So let's just run through that and then we call it a day. So framing and messaging, project confidence, advocate for your executive, and then collaborate and negotiate. These are ways to use the influence that you have built. And on this note, my tribe, my people, I'd like to thank you for your time and your attention. It's been a pleasure speaking to you all. Okay, so Femi, I hope I kept the time.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
We also want to thank the participants for listening actively, and I picked a few things from what you said about connection, communication, and I want everyone, each and every one of us to reflect, because without reflection, there's just learning. I mean, there's no learning, it's just data. So I want everybody to reflect on everything we've learned here and use it. You talked about the certified personal assistant. So how can somebody be a certified? What is the process? Where can we go? How can we have CWCA at the back of our name, please?
Okay. Okay, interesting. So certified world-class assistant,
Yes.
it's offered by Office Dynamics, and when you just check it online, if you Google it, you're going to see the certification. They take you through some weeks, some months training, and it's very thorough. Like if you don't participate, you're not even going to get a certification. You're going to put in 2 rooms to discuss. The founder, I don't know how many of us know Joan Burge. Joan Burge will come into the breakout rooms and talk to us and say, okay, give me feedback here. They'll ask practical questions. They'll take you through. I mean, the curriculum is very thorough. And after it, you will write a test. That's only when you get your certification, right? When I did it, it cost $1,290. It was sponsored by my company. That's also something you must learn to advocate for yourself. I know that there's an issue now with every dollar-based training. People are trying to save cost, but you must advocate for yourself if you have been able to bring all the value that they want, or at least find near alternatives. Well, when I did it, it was $1,290, and that was one of the sessions that was virtual. I don't know if they still offer it virtually. It was COVID time, so they allowed us to do virtually. But mostly you have to travel down to the US for the program and get certified. But I think you could check that out.
Yes, we'll research into it and give feedback on it. So somebody asked a question, Ugundipe Jacob, on synergies in the chat box. Considering synergy, you spoke about what is the ideal time to go for an annual leave? Should it be at the same time with the executive?
Oh, interesting question. So it depends on the dynamics of your organization. I would prefer, most times that you go on leave with your executive, but just know that your leave is not entirely leave. So I'm not saying if you want to go on leave with your executive, just know that you might not have that leave as 100% away to Barbados or one beach country and want to just go and keep everything on airplane mode and not talk to anybody. The reason why that's not possible is because when your boss is on leave, people might defer to you for some decisions or, ask you some questions. So just be ready to take, but it's best because when your boss is on leave, they don't have many things to bombard you with. So I think that this role, you never really get a complete leave, except your boss is like on a sabbatical or training. And that's why where we get compensated is maybe your boss goes for a training and things are not so busy. You have a downtime to enjoy, but just take it as what it is. It's what it is. If you have, however, when I became a senior executive assistant, I could go on leave without my boss going on leave. And I enjoyed those times. Why? Because I had 2 people were reporting to me. They were also EAs. So I gave them a handover note, told them everything that they should know, and then give them contacts for each, occasion. They were only to reach out to me when the thing has gone to, critical mode, right? So those times I could go on leave without my boss going on leave and everything will be fine. Only for a few questions that they will leave for me on WhatsApp. So just know the dynamics of your organization. If you are the only person, please go on leave when your boss goes on leave. If you are the only person and nobody is reporting to you, there is no de facto, there is no mini chief of staff or no mini senior EA that is going to stand in for you and make decisions. Who knows about things when you're gone? Please go when your boss goes. It's better for everybody, right? But just be ready to be available once or twice or a few minutes or hours in a day. But if you're someone who has people reporting and they have information and because one thing I also teach people, please don't learn to be indispensable. People think that the way they can command a higher remuneration in this role is by being indispensable, right? Or by being irreplaceable. No, make sure that you pour into people who are around you. You need it for your rest. You need it for sanity, right? So that when you are not available, people could step in and do a fair job, maybe not 100% as you, but they'll do a fair job in keeping things stable until you come back. So it's two different scenarios. I hope I answered that question. Please confirm by leaving me a yes if I answered it. Two different scenarios. If you have people, if you don't have people reporting to you, please go when your boss goes, but just be available in case. But if you have, okay, I see Peter has his hand raised. Mr. Peter, Peter Care, 15 years, 17 years experience. Mr. Peter, go ahead.
Okay,
Thank you. Mr. Here. Let's go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. I appreciate your competence. I appreciate your delivery. Honestly, if we leave you, you can run for 5 hours non-stop.
It's in the blood. It's in the blood.
I sincerely appreciate this.
Thank
Honestly, I think this is a personal appeal. I would like to get to know you after this class. That's on a personal note. Now, I want to ask this question, not necessarily for me, though I've had that experience, but for I'm sure it will be very beneficial to other people. Now,
Yes,
you can.
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Am I visible now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, now my question is this. Now we know things are changing, and there's this.
We can see you.
Yeah, there's this understanding people have. There's this notion people have that the role of an EA or a secretary is not as important as it used to be then. Now, how can one operate or function in an environment where somehow the place of an EA is not giving the value it should have?
Okay. So, thank you very much, Mr. Peter. And I know many people have that question. As maybe not in the banking industry. I've not seen too many people have that issue in the banking industry, but in other industry, many people struggle with it. Like they're almost not seen or heard. It's almost like they're invisible and they're just playing one role. When it comes to that issue, we're going to talk more about it tomorrow, though. That's part of what I made my presentation about for tomorrow. But when it comes to that, one thing I always say is there's a C missing. There's a C missing in that. That person hasn't built trust enough. There is one of those 5 C's I listed is missing in all of this. Is either competency is in question or confidence is in question. Competency or confidence. Because, and again, there's a different part of it we're going to talk about tomorrow, which is perception management. And that's exactly what you're asking, which is how do people perceive this role the way it is, right? Let's start with the foundations today, which is find for this kind of person, make sure you revisit that slide about competency and confidence and be sure that you have everything on the lockdown. It is hard to ignore people who have these 2 C's on a lockdown, whether they're in an assistant role or they're in any role. It is hard to not accord them. It just happens. It's hard to not accord them the respect they deserve. If these 2 C's, and I'm not dwelling on connection or character because those ones, they're given. But you see anyone that struggles with perception, competency and confidence are likely the 2 areas where they have not really done a thorough job of.
Sorry, let me chip in something.
Peter.
Let me enrich the question. I've seen a place where maybe because of the mindset of the executive, and said all secretaries, all EAs should become an outsourced staff. Do you understand? So once you're a secretary, once you're an EA, you can be a permanent staff. Do you understand? And what it means is that as far as probably because of cost drive or whatever, so what it means is that there is an instant of growth you will have. So such an environment, that's what I know that it depends the vision the individual have, but while you are in that place, how do you navigate? That's the hand, because it doesn't affect me, but I have a couple of friends it affects me, and I know that if we handle it, it will be very useful to them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I mean, this is a practical issue that you're sharing. And I still know EAs that are on, temporary, or when I advise HR, I mean, I'm an EA advocate in my role. I make sure that everything about EA, I take it personal. When I used to advise our HR, one thing I told them, I said, see, you cannot have someone functioning in a role where they know the in and out. They know the plug to pull to put this business in trouble because of the privilege of information they have. And then you put you peg the person's role to maybe like a temporary or something. You need to give them that. They need to have a skin in the game. And how you show that is by helping them, right? So now let's come to straight up to what that person can do beyond what the HR can do. I'll say show workings, number one, and let me even land, because I have 2 points here. Show workings. Mr. Peter, it's hard to ignore someone that has shown workings beyond doubt. The worst they can do or the best they can do is move you out of that role. Show workings. If you show workings, and which is why I mentioned earlier, that the kind of EAs, PAs, TAs that we are building now, the trend, I even included in my slides for tomorrow, the trend is showing that people are no longer wanting to pay premium for this role because of the value they perceive that we bring.
Oh, sure.
Right? You understand? Which is why I put some things in my slides for tomorrow, ways to show your value. It's my slides for tomorrow. If you show your value, nobody, because let's compare ourselves to technology. Every time I come into my training, I ask people, what are your key deliverables? What are your biggest achievements in the years of working? Or even last year, 2023, what are your biggest achievements in process improvement and all of that? Tell me your biggest achievement. You see people struggle to articulate it as assistants. They begin to tell you, I booked a number of meetings. Let's be factual. Those things will not fly by the board in today's economic environment. That's why we must get to a place as assistants where we are now showing our working. Our value and our contribution now has to go beyond, I booked meetings, I engage these people for, it's important to us. That's a lot of work, but people don't know. It's now for you to show it in clear outcomes, how they move things for people. Which is why I said the kind of assistants we're building now is business leaders in their own right, who have administrative competencies and skills. People that can say, here and here and here is how I've contributed this year. Based on this, I deserve to be made a core staff. I deserve for my, my remuneration to be increased. When I left the EA role, I was an AM, right? I was an assistant manager. So we must know that this thing is not what they will give us on a platter of gold, because, and again, I'm being honest, because this is my tribe. We must not say that, oh, because I'm supporting an executive, it should be a no-brainer for HR, which is where I started. I mean, this person is supporting a senior level. You should be able to give them some percentage of what, because they're keeping this person stable. But that's not how they function. HR also functions with outcome when they are giving their defense, when they're defending how much they're paying you or what such decisions. Someone can just wake up and say, make all assistants temporary staff. But HR has to say, okay, this person, see their contribution, we can't make them. If we make them, they're going to port. And if they port, we're going to lose a valuable asset. It's in showing the workings, which is that level we must get to, and which is why tomorrow is critical. That presentation we have tomorrow, we must talk about it, because if they put you in a room with your technology counterpart for appraisal, how can you defend what you've done? It's easy for a technology person to say, I built so app, I improved it when it was down, I made this one down, I contributed to 4 apps. What about you? How do you list your achievements? So that when people see it, it's undeniable the fact that you must be a permanent staff and you must be paid enviably. It comes down to show your workings. There's no other way. Now, the second point I wanted to raise is, if you've done all these things, you've shown your workings, you've done everything, and it looks like that company they've stamped it in their manual, they've stamped it in their process manual or in their way of working, no assistants must be a full staff. I'm sorry, my people, that's not a place for you. That's the second part, and I will be real. It's just for you to move on, because you can't grow beyond the system. You cannot grow beyond the system. I've realized it in my line of work. No matter how much you push, strive, do, the system will always be the system. Because system come and go. People come and go. System remain the same. System will be the system. There are codes written somewhere that even your grammar cannot change. So you can't grow beyond the system. It's either that change happens because someone is seeing the input you're making, or you just decide when. And that's why career, we must have conversations about career as well. There's a time for you to pull the plug and move on to another role where your contribution will be appreciated, or another place entirely. I hope he answers your question.
Mr. Peter, I hope that
Thank you. This is out.
All right.
Appreciate this.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions?
Not from me.
Okay. In the absence of none, I would like Mr. Peter, you're already there. So we're going to do the vote of thanks for Mrs. Tijani. Appreciate her, and then we'll take a good photograph. Everybody turn the video, we'll take a screenshot. So Mr. Peter, kindly give the vote of thanks to Mrs. Tijani. The next time we're seeing Mrs. Tijani will be tomorrow's session. More than she has given us a lot of snippets on what we're going to see. So it's going to be very impactful. So Mr. Peter, kindly give us the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Okay, I think I've done that initially, but I'm going to do it again.
Yes.
So Mrs. Tijani, it's obvious that you are a tribe woman indeed. You are not just an alien coming to teach us. You taught us from the place of experience, and it was quite insightful. And on behalf of your other colleagues here, I'd like to say thank you for this piece you gave us. You are a thoroughbred, and we appreciate your contribution. Thank you once again.
Thank you all so much. I do not take your time and attention for granted. I know how difficult it is to stay 2 hours as an assistant without really going off the meeting. There's too many things to deal with, but you've chosen to be here. Thank you so much for your time, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Before she goes, we'll kindly, everyone should please turn on your video. We're going to take a good photograph right now. Smile and turn on your videos. Look straight into the camera. Thank you, everyone. I'm taking it in 5 seconds. All right.
Okay. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, guys, so welcome back. So this short time, we'll be looking at our intercommunication and mostly communicating with emotional intelligence. So just a brief overview of the course. So the aim is to strengthen your communication, and also we want to be able to look at how you can adapt to the communication style that suit different contexts, stakeholders, especially your executive that you work with, to be able to enhance your versatility in supporting your executive. So we'll do this tomorrow. We're going to be having a case study to help us drive home the points that we have this motive. So I want to start with talking about emotional intelligence. And I think that's one of the most highly flawed subjects, emotional intelligence. So we'll look at it today and see how it's intertwined with communicating effectively and being able to succeed as a professional, an assistant to an executive. Okay, so first, I want to start from this one. What is emotional intelligence? What's your understanding of it? And I'd like your contribution, if you don't mind, in the chat area. I want just have what you think it is. and let's take it from there. So are we good to go, please? And I still see that not all the one that was in the other session that is here. I came in towards the end of Mr. Jani's session. Then I saw that there were 70 something of us here, and we're still less than 70. Some people would join us soon. Okay, so emotional intelligence. When we're talking about emotional intelligence, what comes to mind for you? Please, I'd like us to share your thoughts. Emotional intelligence. Thank you. Thank you, Timothy, from First Ally Capital. Self-awareness and understanding the need of others. Firstly, I'm just going to take notes, and then I like so that I can also put a name to that. Okay, self-awareness and understanding the needs of others. Please, can we have more emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence. It's become so popular that it's more like a cliche right now. Okay, there's love from women. She says it also describes the ability to manage your emotion, even when to a great extent the emotion of others. And even to a great extent the emotions of others. Manage your emotions and those of others. Thank you, Lord. Please, any more thoughts? Any more thoughts? I see that we are 68 here and only 2 people are sharing what they think. Please, let's make it interactive. I don't want it to be one-way traffic kind of stuff. Okay, Chima, thank you. Chima says this is understanding the emotions of others and knowing what approach to communicate with them. That's another interesting perspective. Thank you, Chima, for coming in. Yes. Let's have more. Let's have more. At least let's have 5 people. If we're 69, it's not too much to have 5 people sharing what they know, what is they think emotional intelligence is. And I'm not asking you as a textbook question. I'm just asking your own understanding of it. Okay, it doesn't have to be a popular understanding, but your own understanding. Okay, so there's Rebecca says ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways. This is really interesting. Thank you, Rebecca. So, ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions. Awesome. And then Sandra is here. She says, is the capacity to handle interpersonal relationships empathetically. Wow. Sandra, that is really sounding professorial. Are you a professor? It's sounding so academic. You packed a lot of things there. I wish you can help us unpack those things, in a simple language so people like us can understand. Gabriel says ability to control and evaluate emotions. Great. And I mean, this is an interesting perspective. Thank you. Blessing says, it is the ability of understanding, recognizing, and influencing the emotions of others. Amazing thoughts. I see a Zebedee phrase says, it's the capacity to understand your own emotions and others around you. Wow, interesting. Then Godwin says emotional intelligence refers to the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and express emotions effectively, both in oneself and in others. This Godwin must be a professor of emotional intelligence. Wow. Great insight, guys, and great definition. And I can tell you that None of this, your definition, is off the curve at all. Great, great, great. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that you participated in this. Thank you, thank you. So I'll take Kabir as the last one. He said, it's a skill that allows you to be self-aware and also communicate effectively. Thank you, Kabir. Great. So this is the definition that I'm sharing with us. And it says emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to recognize and understand emotion in yourself and others, and the ability to use this awareness to manage your behavior and relationship. Now, this is where I want to, be able to correct some of the mindsets that some of us have about emotional intelligence. It is really, really not about using it to manage others or to control someone else. No, it is your ability first to recognize, the dynamics, the interplay of your emotions as a person. And that recognition comes from knowing your emotions during different scenarios. Yeah, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're bereaved, when you are under pressure, when you feel insulted, when you feel someone has taken advantage of you. All of those scenarios, those different scenarios, your ability to be able to catch your emotions, and then understand that emotion, how it works in yourself, and knowing that the way emotions works in you is likely the way it's going to work in other human beings. So that's why you understand emotions in yourself and others. And then now use this skill that you have acquired about yourself, right? To now manage your behavior and your relationship. So it affects how we now manage behaviors and navigate social complexity and make personal decisions that achieve positive results. Now, because if we don't understand emotional intelligence in this way, and you're thinking that it is your ability to know emotions in yourself and others and be able to control what others do, then you're stepping outside the boundary of emotional intelligence. You're without knowing, in a subtle way, you're going to get into manipulation, into having controlling behavior. And so that when people do not kind of pander to the way you want them to behave or respond to you, you're going to be upset, you're going to be angry. And you said, and then you have minds like, you just don't even know how to behave. Why is everybody trying to get on my nerves? Why is everything just not working for me? Why am I the only one in this place? It's because you do not have the proper understanding of how you are supposed to interact with emotions. It is really about you knowing your emotions, knowing how you recognizing the emotions in you, understanding how it works, and using that skill that you have learned about yourself to navigate your relationship and to keep your behavior in an acceptable place. Okay? So Daniel Goleman also defined emotional intelligence as the capacity not only to be aware and to be able to express our emotions, but also to manage and moderate them effectively. So it doesn't stop with knowing yourself. It doesn't stop with being aware. right? Because some people, where it stops for them is being aware. And how do I know this? I've heard people say this over and again. I've lost count of it. When you ask them, why are you like that? You say, oh, that's just the way I am, you know. I mean, you just need to accept me the way I am, because I know that that's who I am. I remember many years ago, sometimes in the 90s, I read a book then, why people behave the way they do. And that's when people started to, instead of using the knowledge from that book as a tool for self-development and growth, they started to use it as a tool to validate their behavior that they're not willing to work on. So that's when you hear people say, oh, well, you confront them to say, why did you do that? Oh, that's not the way I am, you know. I'm just a sanguine. Oh, no, I'm just a choleric. Oh, no, you know, that's how we that are melancholic. That's how we behave. No, that's not how you behave. The book exposed that behavior, and obviously you only took the first part of the book and you didn't take the other part, because the book tells you these are the flaws for this behavior, and these are the things you need to do to be able to overcome those flaws so you can be better. It's not to validate the bad behavior, as it were. So the concluding part of being emotionally intelligent is to now develop the competence to be able to manage and moderate your emotions effectively, because people will get on your nerves every time. Something will happen that will not work the way you want. You will be under pressure. You will be told to do things that you think, how can you ask somebody to do this kind of work in 30 minutes and give you a report? Because it's possible. Okay, so you will find a way to do it instead of find an excuse on how not to do it. So emotional intelligence is actually what prevents anger from turning into rage and sadness into despair. My video did not freeze, ladies and gentlemen. I just took a pause that I wanted that to sink in for you, right? It helps, it does what? Is what helps you prevent anger from turning into rage. Did you see? It didn't say anything was wrong with being angry. Oh, yes, you can be angry. It's good to be angry. It's human to be angry. In short, if you tell me you're not angry, you need help. Something is not okay with you. You need to go get help. So you can be angry, but the question is, what do you do with the anger when you are angry? Then he says, is what prevents sadness to turn into despair. Because when it gets into despair, it's usually not a good experience. So looking at this definition, excuse me. Now, it's bringing me to talk about I'll call it the framework, right, for emotional intelligence, more like the structure that emotional intelligence is built on. And the first one there is self-awareness. That is critical. It's still talking about the definition. We're referencing that definition as we look at this this framework, more like the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. So if you see self-awareness, the flip side of it is social awareness. Okay? So what self-awareness is to you is what social awareness is to others, as you become aware of that. Self-management now becomes managing relationships, the ability to manage relationship. So self-awareness, we'll say, is recognizing your own emotions and their impact on communication. Self-aware, recognizing your emotion. That's something that not many people have been able to achieve. Some people are pretenders when it comes to emotional intelligence. They are pretenders. They tell you they are emotionally intelligent, they are self-aware, but deep down, you are not responding to something you don't like, especially at work, because you know the consequence that follows if you did what you really wanted to. You know, some of us, when we're upset, if you really wanted to do what you really wanted to do, but because you are thinking, if I do this thing, I can't show up again tomorrow at work, it will mean the end of work. Then you will keep quiet inside, you'll be angry. That's really not emotional intelligence. You are suppressing the emotion. You have not mastered the emotion. Okay, so here is a quick exercise that I want us to do. And I want everyone to please participate in this. And I want us to look at it here in plenary. There's no need for us to go into any breakout room for this. Objective. So the objective of this is to increase self-awareness of non-verbal communication and how it impacts others. Okay? So there's a connection between non-verbal communication and self-awareness. You know, because non-verbal communication, these are those communications that we always give up without saying anything, but we're saying a lot. Sometimes, for some of us, our silence is deafening. It's so loud that it's deafening. Your body language, your facial expression, your gestures, the way you roll your eyes when something does not go the way you want, for some of us, the way our eyes blink. You can blink your eyes like maybe 30 blinking in 20 seconds. You know something is wrong, and you are communicating with that, even though you think you're not. It's also a function of self-awareness. So I want you to spend about 5 minutes silently reflecting on these two questions that you can see on your screen. Okay, so, and I want you to, if you need to, put it in your journal, please do. To describe a recent situation where your emotions impacted your body language. That means your emotions gave away, right? Through your body language. You didn't say anything, but your body language showed it. You were asked to do something, probably something so not on your schedule, and it came in when you thought your day was over. You were about to, you were shutting down, and with this thing that has just come, you're not likely to spend less than another hour at work. You didn't say a verbal no, but your emotions gave you out. And how did we know? Your body language told us. So describe one situation like that. And then how did your body language, facial expression, likely affect others in that situation? Because you might say, I didn't say anything, but we noticed. How did I know something was not okay without you saying anything? So how did your body language, how did it affect your critical stakeholder of those that needed to, that were around you, that affected them? Now, the question is, was this a positive or a negative impact? Okay, so guys, it's not something too long. Can we do this, say, in 5 minutes? And I'll be glad to take about 2 or 3 of us that will be willing to share their reflections with us, voluntarily. It's a voluntary stuff. Please, I hope we're together. I hope everyone is on top of this. We should be rounding up now. Femi, I think it's time now.
Yeah, so we can start with the first person. I would like to nominate Chima to start from Nova. You can see he's actively participating. So maybe he can start for us.
Okay.
Share your screen again so that they can see the questions again.
Would you want me to speak to the mic or send a message on the chat?
You can speak to us so everyone can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon once again. Like I've said, my name is Chima. Okay, the experience I can think about is a particular time where I okay, a document was sent to me to print out for my boss, and which I printed it out without having to check for any errors because I felt since it was coming from him, he just wanted me to print out and get to him for approval. And which when I did that, I took it to him and then he reacted that. So because he sent it to me, I couldn't go through the document to check for any corrections because he was now correcting so many things there and seeing some errors, which it's I'll say negligence on my own side, but I was only thinking that since it's coming from him, I didn't expect that there will be any correction to be made. So which after I made the corrections, I went back to reprint. Already at that point, I had some mixed up feelings already, but I still took it as it's part of the job. I made the corrections that had been altered on documents and printed, taking it back to him. He saw more corrections to do again. And then the frustration started coming out in me. But because of still new here with him, and I still understand that we're still getting to know ourselves better. So because of I haven't gotten very used to him, because I'm still new here, I still have to push it down and not let my expression come out. Would you believe that when I went back to make the correction, I took my time staring at my screen, reading word for word to check for any mistake so that I won't have to face that again. And the funniest part was, as I printed it out and took it to him, there were more corrections. So now what I did with that was the frustration was there, but maybe because of the little experience I've had on the particular role that I'm with him with, I've come to understand that it's not about me. I should also see it as if that document had left his table out to where it was supposed to go to and the errors were noticed there, it would look bad on his side. So that was what I could use to will I say compensate myself not to react or not to show. And maybe because of how I grew up, I've always been the type of person that is always keeping quiet to things, even when I'm not wrong. I just look at it that me reacting, does it change anything? Then I let it go. But it's not a good one because the more you continue keeping quiet, you'll be surprised the day you react. It will be for something that is actually not that important for you to react. So that is what I have tried to adjust, not keeping quiet always, but it's still a work in progress. But I can say where I was before is not where I am today. So that's the experience I can share.
And thank you so much, Chima, for being that vulnerable to share that. And also to take the learning, from it, I mean, that's really the sauce and the juice of it, that you're taking, the learning. And one other thing that you said that is really important is that keeping quiet for everything does not mean you're emotionally intelligent. It just means that you are absorbing things that you should not absorb. And there's a limit to how far you can do that. Because when there's after a while, just like you said, it's gonna be something very, very seeming insignificant that will trigger, something, and people will now start wondering because they will not be able to relate what happened to the, to the reaction that you're giving to it. Thank you for sharing that with us. Any other person that wants to share? Peter, do you want to share? I see you are there, and then your attention is really a rapt attention. That's Peter, Globus Bank. Oh, okay, somebody else.
Yeah, I think if I will have to, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah. Well, if I will have to share, currently in my role, I work for the CEO and one of the EDs. I report to the two of them. Now, I have come to learn the emotional intelligence because the ED is, let's say, permit me to use this word, more a bit of an impatient person. If an assignment, he wants it now. And I also have to learn that reporting to two people, I can't tell my MD that why I didn't do what I'm doing is because I want to do something for his subordinate. So when I have conflicting situations like that, sometimes he will come out, what happened to this? What happened to this? I give you something to do. I don't want to give him an answer. Okay, because the MD give me something to do and I can't go back. No, I don't want him to see me as always giving him an excuse. Sometimes I'll just tell him I'll get back to you shortly. So when I go back to him, I'll say, I don't, because sometimes when he's asking, he demands response now. So I'll just say, okay, I'll get back to you shortly. So just give me 1 minute. So when I go back to him, he says, sorry, why I delayed was I wanted to give the MD an information. I wanted to do something for the MD. So I don't think that way he takes it better. But if, as I'm telling him that I'm doing something for the MD, he makes it look like, oh, you mean I'm not important too?
Yeah.
So that way I understand because his own thing that if he's kind of person who forgets. So if you don't get that thing done immediately, he's likely going to forget. So he wants to get done. And it took me a while to understand his personality. Then I manage him better. So that way I don't because I know that tomorrow, because why I try to manage him very well. If I say, oh, you are not my principal boss, I'm only giving a support role to you. Things change. Tomorrow he can take up the position of as the head.
Yeah.
So if he had already had a mindset about you,
Yeah.
you're going to struggle working with him. So that's what I have learned managing the role. So emotional intelligence has made. So when he's shouting like that, I try as much as possible not to give any reaction to the fact that, oh, don't you see I'm doing something for now. So I just said, no, I'm doing it. I'm going to get back to you shortly. And I manage it. So that's what I have learned in my own role.
I mean, Peter, excellent. I would say you are doing an amazing job, and that is really at the core of emotional intelligence. Now, because I'm going to just take one or two things from what you said. You have taken the time to study him. Now, and that is what everyone on this call, if you've not made it your duty, you must make it your duty. It is called audience profiling. Your number one audience is your executive. It is not your business to determine their behavior. It is not within your control to manage how they behave or not to behave. Your own business is to understand who they are, because that's who you are called to serve. So you need to understand who they are, and within that understanding, now find how you can best serve them so that you can bring out even the best in that your manager. So that's an amazing, amazing approach. Now you know the kind of person. And again, you said one other thing about him. Now you see, it's not because he's an impatient person, because he also knows himself that if I don't deal with this thing now, I will forget it. So that's why it looks like he's always, can you get it to me now? Can you get? because of the pressure also that he also has on him. Because if he leaves it now, he can just lose track of it and it's not going to look also good on him. So that's why he's also always coming back to you and saying, you need to get it to me now. But because you also now understand him, you are not suppressing any anger or emotion. Oh, why is this man always talking like that? No, you know that this is my own manager. This is my executive. This is how he wants me to work with him. And I recognize that. I understand that. And I appreciate that. And it's good for us. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please. All right. I don't think there's any other person has, and let's go on. But if you do have, please let us know. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I hope you all did too, for this short exercise. Okay, so I want to just use this framework to on self-awareness to drive home that concept a lot more for us. This framework is very simple, and it's something that can really help you become a better person at work. It's called the Johari window. Okay, so the Johari window is a tool that has really been in existence since the 1950 something when it was first introduced. Okay, so here we have the window is more like a matrix here, and there are 4 quadrants in this matrix. So the first one that I want to talk about is the open window. Let's talk about the open window. Now, when you talk about the open window, we're saying these are things, behavioral preferences, things about you that you know and others also know about you. They can be positive. They can be things that you need to stop doing. They can be things that you are doing that is okay, that you need to continue to do. But these are things everyone knows about you. These are behaviors everyone knows about you. So if you have someone who is always smiling, no matter what happens to them, no matter the situation, you just know that this person has a smiling face. So they know it themselves, others know these things about them. So that's what the open space is, the open area is. And you see, the fundamental goal of the Johari window is for us to be able to push all the other quadrants. Is for us to be able to bring all the other elements in this quadrant, in this matrix, to the open area. So then the second one is what we call the blind spot. The blind spot are those things that you do, those behaviors that you have, that is not known to you, but others know about you. Things that you do, and others say, oh, but you do this thing. Say, no, I don't do it. But you do it. Everybody say you do that. I'm not like that. It's a blind spot. So for a blind spot, what you need to help you overcome a blind spot so that the blind spot can become an open area is for you to receive feedback. You need to be comfortable with receiving feedback. Okay, so that's the stuff about the blind spot. Okay, so the things you don't know about the behaviors you have, you exhibit, you don't know. Okay, I'll tell you, is as sometimes as simple as pencil tapping or pen tapping. You're in a meeting, you're having a meeting, and for you, when the meeting gets really, really intense, engrossed, you are engrossed in the meeting, and you have a pen in your hand, right? Like I do have this pen in my hand. You know what happened? You just start to tap. You're tapping, and you're tapping, and you're tapping. And you see, the more you tap, the deeper your interest, your involvement in it. And you don't even know that you're doing it. And then somebody tells you, hey, you're distracting the open. You say, no, I'm not doing anything. Say, but your pen, you were using your pen to say, oh, really? Oh, really? I didn't know I was doing that. Yes, it's a blind spot. So feedback helps you to deal with blind spots. Then the third window in the matrix is excuse me, the hidden area. Now your hidden area is what is known to you and not known to your colleagues at home. Okay, so now what is known to you and is hidden to others is what is hidden, and the only way to get this revealed is for you to tell. Now, again, that depends on you. It's not compulsory, because if it is something that is personal, that has nothing to do with your work, is not affecting your work, is not affecting anything, but is an issue that you have, it's okay. And you don't want to talk about it, you are free not to talk about it. And then the last one is the unknown. Okay, that is something that is not known to you and is also not known to others. Sometimes people usually wonder, so how do we bring it to the open area? So most times what happens here is the tool there is exploration, volunteering, just taking the risk to do something. Okay, so even in your role now, maybe there's an opportunity for something to be done that is not directly, in your role, but you have certain skills that you think, maybe, I don't know, I need to do something if I don't know whether it's, can I give it a try? And then you give it a try, and voila, it works. Everybody's like, really interesting. So this is the unknown. And what happens? Because you dare to explore, because you dare to volunteer, you gave yourself, let me, risk, being, because sometimes volunteering can make you risk looking foolish, but it's okay, you gave it a try, and now, guess what? You now discovered additional things about yourself, and others also are like, oh, so seriously, so this is something that this person can do, and we didn't even know this person can do this kind of thing. All right? So, okay, guys, are we good? Let me just ask in the chat area. Please, are you all following me? Are we good? I hope I haven't lost anyone. Please just in the comment area, just give me a 1 1 1 1 1 if you are with me. If you are not with me, just give me a 2 and say no. You don't. Please quickly. Thank you. Just so that you don't type anything too much, just give me a 1 if you're following, if you're with me. If you're not, put a 2, and then we'll know how to address that. Thank you. I see the ones are coming in. Thank you. Okay, I've seen a 2. Okay. So I'd like to know where the issue is so that I can take that. I've seen a 2. Please tell me so I can take that quickly before we move on. I don't just want to keep moving on. And
Chima, yes, what are you, where should you go back to? You put it 2.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, Chima, where should you go back to?
Yeah, so Chima.
I'm so sorry. At the time you were explaining these boxes, I had a job that came to my desk, and I would really like to understand what they represent. This.
What represents?
The boxes, the know to yourself, know to self, the open, blind, hidden, and unknown. You were explaining what they represent here. So I'd like to understand what this chart or what this diagram.
Yeah, so that I said that the whole framework here is called the Johari window. It's a tool for self-awareness. it helps an individual to become more aware of themselves. So I said that the first box, which is the open area, is what is known to you and what is known to others. Okay, so I mean, everybody knows that you are very good with what you do, your work. Oh yeah, everybody can vouch for you. Oh yeah, oh Chima. When Chima says, oh, I'm good with my work, and others can attest to it. Yeah, you are good with your work. That's what he's saying. Then I see Mike here. He's also asking, what if you're exploited in the blind area? I don't understand the exploiting here, because it's not known to you, but it's known to others. Okay, so for instance, let me give you one that usually people talk about in training rooms. When I ask them, give example, people have said, look, we have some colleagues that have maybe somebody that has a body odor in the office, or somebody that has a mouth odor. Usually, in case you don't know, people who have body odor or mouth odor, they don't know. It's a blind spot. Okay, I remember I have a friend that used to have a mouth odor. It was with feedback that he was able to know. And this guy can brush his teeth for Nigeria and his tongue and all of that. But it was discovered that it was a medical condition. He had to undergo a mini surgical procedure, okay, to rectify it. But guess what helped him? It was feedback. Sometimes some people can't share some feedback with you, depending on the level of relationship that is possible. Okay, so that's feedback. So a blind spot, feedback is what can be used to help you overcome a blind spot that you have that you don't know. Okay, so, and one very practical example of blind spot, which is why we're usually warned if you're a driver, if you're driving your car behind a trailer, you are always going to be in the blind spot for the trailer. If it's going to turn left or right, they usually don't know. So what is the feedback? You need to honk your horn and say, hey, somebody is here. You need to give them that to call their attention that, oh, someone is here. That's a feedback. That's what you use to overcome that. And when you deal with the feedback, it becomes something that is in the open area. Okay? So it's no longer hidden from you. And so also the healing one, like I said, is the thing that you know about yourself that others don't know. And I said you are at liberty to reveal it or not to reveal it. Okay, so maybe somebody you're taking you just find sometimes your colleagues just find that you're always closing earlier than you used to close. Maybe you started a master's program or a PhD program and you need to attend classes or something. People don't know. Not everybody knows about it. And then, you know, your guys are now getting upset that you're no longer hanging out with them. It might affect the relationship negatively if you don't let them know that, oh, look, guys, I have a commitment for the next 12 months. I'm not going to be able to hang out with you guys. So it now leaves the hidden area. The open area now moves forward and expands down to where the hidden area is. It gets revealed. So also the unknown. The unknown are certain things you can do, skills you have that you don't know because you've never had opportunity to use them. And I said you can use them either by exploring. In the process of exploring, you will discover things that you don't know. And sometimes also in the process of volunteering to do something, you just find yourself able to do things you've never done before. Okay, so I hope this is clear now for Mike and for Chima. So can I go on, guys?
Yes, Mr. Nikosi, you can move on.
Thank you. So let's go on and talk about self-awareness and communication. So recognizing your own emotions. Now, it can help you identify your feelings, okay? Whether stress, excitement, frustration. And then you're able to manage its impact on your communication. That is where the connection between self-awareness and communication comes to play. Okay, so for example, you're feeling stressed, it could lead to rushed email or short responses. So recognizing these allows you to take a deep breath, slow down, probably, drink water, compose yourself, and find yourself communicating more effectively. So sometimes you are under stress, you are upset, you're trying to just send a message to somebody, to reply to an email. I tell you that 9 out of 10 times you're going to find yourself regretting that email that you sent without, having a real thought to the communication. So when you recognize your emotion, what it does for you is it helps you grab it like, okay, so I remember when I was creating some couple of years ago a resource for emotional intelligence, I came up with the concept of the peremote. Now, the peremote is a concept that talks about not only recognizing your emotions, but being able to grab your emotion like you have a remote control in your hand. Okay? So if you don't have your emotions under control, it means somebody else or something else is controlling you. And because you do not have your emotions under control, you will say things you ought not to say. You will do things you ought not to do. You will act in ways that betrays who you are portraying yourself to be. Excuse me. So, recognizing your emotions helps you to communicate well. And it is important for you to know that how you communicate can sometimes be more powerful than what you are trying to say. The how, what you say. So, understanding personal communication style, this also plays a role. So, recognizing your own communication style, whether direct or indirect, helps them adjust their approach to better communicate with different personalities. So when you recognize your own communication style, it helps you to adjust how you communicate with the different personalities that you meet, and also especially with the personality of the executive that you serve. It's very important. So let's move on to the second pillar in emotional intelligence, which is self-management. So self-management is also known as self-regulation. So here is a quote that and it says, experience is not what happens to you. It's really how you interpret what happens to you. And you say this interpretation is the trigger for a lot of people's response emotionally. So things are not as bad as they first appear. Nothing. There is nothing that you ever hear that is as bad as you first heard it. The challenge is that you interpreted what you have based on your own bias. You interpreted what you have or what you experienced based on preconceived mindsets. So experience is not what happens to you. It's how you interpret what happens to you. And this is a quote by Aldous Huxley. So emotional self-control, and I also call it sometimes, it's emotional self-governance. Okay? It refers to how we control or effectively manage the behavior that our emotions trigger. How you effectively manage the behavior that your emotions trigger. So your emotions trigger a behavior in you, and that behavior is what we see you throwing tantrums or destroying things. Now, those are the behavior that your emotions trigger. Now, people with strong emotional self-control, they manage to stay composed and poised even in stressful situations. Why? First, these things are skills. The first and fundamental skills for emotional self-control is as simple as it is. Many of us don't know its power and how to use it. The key skill is your ability to take a deep breath before you open your mouth to say anything. Don't respond first. Take a deep breath. It has a very powerful effect on changing your perception of the things. In that split second, you're not going to be going at that same speed that you wanted to go. So taking a deep breath slows you down and allows you that, that split second for you to compose yourself. That's what it does for you. So it's because I've had people say, well, when I'm hungry, how can I be composed in that place? That is the thing. Don't give life to the anger. Short circuit the life of that emotion by taking a deep breath. When you do, it changes your perception of what's happening. Right? So for you as a support professional, this is a critically important competency for you to develop. Right? Why? Since you typically reflect the energy around your boss, and that is the truth, you will reflect the kind of energy that is around your executive. You can actually determine the energy that comes around him in spite of whatever is in the room. It's largely your duty. It's a skill. It doesn't jump on people. It doesn't happen overnight. But with practice, you can become better at it. So taking a deep breath is one very powerful one. And sometimes, not even sometimes, I've found out that, you see, what it does is that little lag in response offers you a whole new perception. So take a deep breath. Sometimes if the environment also permits, you can drink water. Drink water. You'll be shocked how things will flip immediately. Okay? So professionals with good self-management, they can control their emotions during communication so as to prevent outbursts or negativity that could hinder the message or damage relations. They can also manage stress effectively, ensuring that your communication remains professional, calm, under pressure. So if you look at the image that I have on the screen, there is a definition of self-management here. And it says it is the ability to regulate your own emotion, not the emotions of other people. You can't do that. It's the ability to regulate your emotion, your thoughts, and your behaviors effectively in different situations. This includes managing stress, controlling your impulses, motivating yourself, setting and working toward achieving your personal goals and even academic if you have one. So this is really the strength of self-management. It is to regulate your emotion. And most times, what triggers your emotion are your thoughts. Your thought pattern. They're very important. Your thoughts either your thoughts about your executive. That's why you should never be working with someone you're not comfortable with. You're not positively disposed. No. You're not going to be helping them. You're not going to be helping yourself. You're going to be causing a lot more issue for yourself and the executive you're working for. So your thoughts, because your thoughts have a huge impact on how you feel. How you feel has a huge impact on what you say. And that also has a huge impact on your action. So these things are connected to each other. So controlling impulses. Okay, so let's move on and talk about empathy. Support professionals can recognize their boss's emotional state through verbal and non-verbal cues. Now, this allows you to tailor your communication accordingly, offering support during difficult times and adjusting communication style if your boss feels overwhelmed. This is empathy. By actively listening and recognizing emotions, you as a support professional can build stronger relationships and navigate sensitive conversations more effectively. So empathy is critical in how you communicate, because if you show empathy, then you will communicate in such a way as the way you would like yourself to receive communication from someone else. That's the way you would like to also give it to others. Okay? So you see my image is also a message to us. Sometimes we forget to listen. So with empathy, you can understand the dynamics within the workplace and adjust your communication style accordingly. Now, you say that empathy can help you do something as an assistant to an executive. It can help you read the mood, help you read your executive's mood, help you gauge the atmosphere, so you know what to say, when to say it, when to give him or her some bit of space. These are all the things, and when to come in. To reference one of the, something Peter said just a while ago when we were talking, that his own executive is always the one that wants the answer right now on the spot. And the kind of response he would give him is not the response that he would appreciate. That is empathy. So he would usually say, oh, let me get back to you on that, sir. I'll get back to you. And when he now gets back and now gives him the reason why he didn't get what he wanted from him when he wanted it, he can understand. So what did Peter demonstrate? He demonstrated empathy. And that empathy allowed him to adjust his communication style at that instance. So there is also what is called situational communication. You must understand that. So you can identify potential conflict and adapt your communication style to de-escalate it. That's what you do at that time. Okay, and then navigate through differences. Different differences. The cultural differences, whatever differences. So maintaining composure and appropriate communication style, even in a challenging situation, it reflects well on your boss and it fosters trust. Your boss can trust you because you have over and over again, you have demonstrated that you are dependable, you're reliable, you're looking out for their interests. That's ultimately, really, that's how the success of your own role is measured. The success of your executive. Okay, so now let's talk about the last leg of the emotional intelligence, which is relationship management. Are we good till up until now, everyone? Are we good? Let me just check on you again. Are we good? Should I go on? Are we good? Thank you. I see a one there. Yeah, thank you. Good. Awesome. Thank you, Kemisola. Thank you, Chima. Thank you. Great. Sandra, Timothy, thank you guys. So, relationship management. So, demonstrating emotional intelligence through active listening, one, empathy, and appropriate communication helps build trust with the boss, with clients, and colleagues. Now, this fosters a more productive, collaborative, and productive work environment. So, by understanding and acknowledging emotions involved, you as a support professional can facilitate constructive communication during conversation with differences in perspective, leading to better solutions. Right? So, if you see, there are three major elements here that are referenced here. The first one, I said, is active listening. The other one is empathy. And then appropriate communication. Now, these are critical elements in relationship management. Okay, so I said what self-management is to you as an individual is what relationship management is to others. So the skills that you have learned in regulating your emotion is the same skills you will need to use in regulating the relationship in your life. Okay, in managing the relationship that you have, the ability to listen. Okay, so that brings us to the topic of active listening and empathetic communication. Femi, I hope I'm not running behind on time.
No, sir, you have about 25 minutes more.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I hope I'm able to finish this. Okay, so let's go on and talk about active listening. Okay, so this is a quote by Peter F. Drucker. It says the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. Guys, I need you to read that again. Read that and take it in, and maybe just put it in your journal. But sometimes you'll be wondering, how is that possible? But that is the most important thing in communication, is hearing what is not said. That's the most important thing, hearing what is not said. So you as an assistant to an executive, you must become a master of both verbal and non-verbal cues. You must be able to interpret facial expression, hand gestures, body language. Be able to listen with intent. So that even when you're listening, you're also hearing what is not being said from what is being said. So why listening skills are important? One, if you develop great listening skills, it improves relationships, It improves your knowledge, it improves your understanding, it prevents problems from escalating, it saves everyone time and energy, it can save money, it will lead to better results. Unfortunately, too many people are eager to talk than they are eager to listen. And somebody just said it jokingly, I don't know who the person is, who the author of that is, but he said that's the reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen more and speak less. Because it will improve relationships. See, and one of the fundamental keys of emotional intelligence is your ability to be able to lose your right to be right. Now, what do I mean? Is sometimes some people speak too much, sometimes just keep quiet and stop trying to explain yourself away. Because the more you are trying to explain yourself away, the more we are seeing a lot of loopholes and gaps in what you're saying. You are exposing yourself more when you talk too much. Learn to listen a lot more. So, what are the components of active listening? Quickly, let me share this with us. So, when you are listening, and your listening is considered to be active, these are the 5 elements around. See, you cannot listen to someone that you do not respect. And listening to people is a sign of respect. Listening is a sign of respect. Right? You say you are listening, but you're on your phone. You say you are listening, but you are writing something. You say you are listening, but you're not making eye contact. So, someone said, "Oh, can I have you say yes? I can hear you." No, you see, that's the mistake people make. Listening and hearing, they are 2 different things. Oh, you say, "No, I can hear you." You can hear me, but you're not listening to me. You can hear me, of course, you can hear me. If you're not impaired, right? You can hear me. But you're not listening. So the first point of listening actively is respect. 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 Focus. Focus is key to active listening. Making eye contact, but focus also there is talking about being present. Now, not just being there physically, but being present, be there, be present. Don't stop allowing your mind to wander to different places. While you are there, you're thinking of something you need to do. There's another document I need to cut. But you're supposed to be listening here, but you're not. So focus is fundamental to active listening. And the 3rd element there is acknowledge. And let me tell you, this is the point where people start to show that, or the speaker starts to notice that you're not listening. In short, as a matter of fact, they can miss out on the first 2 components here and not even know that you're not listening, right? But on the 3rd one is the acknowledge. You acknowledge that you heard what they have said. How do you acknowledge? You are reflecting on what was. Because when you acknowledge, what does it do? It gives you the leeway, the freedom to be able to engage them now to say, these and these and these and these are the things that I got from from what you want me to do. And if your engagement is not absolutely in sync with what they said, then you can clarify, because that's where they clarify it for you and say, oh, okay, no, you got those other parts, but what I meant here is, that is when listening has happened. But listening must make you be in the same spot that the speaker is. So the speaker wants you to be exactly where they are. That's why they brought that conversation. So when you are able to see things from the perspective of the speaker, your listening is good. And how do you also, is by clarifying, you clarify. If you're not clear, you clarify. In engaging, you might see where you are not leveling up, you can clarify. These are the 5 components of active listening. So what are some of the barriers to listening? 1, interrupting. Now, these are some of the barriers. I mean, this happens to almost everyone, you know? And it can happen to you a lot, and I know that it happens to a lot of this call. You know, your executive is giving an instruction because you work with him, because you know him, right? You know him. And he's trying to say something. He says, oh, okay, no, I understand that. Oh, I get you, sir. And then he lets you go because you already say you get it. And then you come back and you bring the exact opposite of what he wanted. So we need to learn to be quiet and then listen. So don't interrupt, because you assume that you know what they want to say. Allow them to express themselves. So it can be a barrier. And the challenge with that is sometimes we're also trying to be helpful. That's why we do interrupt. So you want to help? No. Sometimes some people don't see that as being helpful. Sometimes it is seen as being forward, unnecessarily forward. So sometimes again, the barrier can be seen the discussion as a competition. So, and this might not be directly with the executive, it might be with colleagues within the office. Someone is they're trying to outdo themselves, outwit themselves in a discussion. And then you find out that nobody is actually talking. It's becoming a shouting bout. Then distraction. There are red flags to listen, right? Like emotional trigger or gap search, right? They are all barriers to effective listening. Gap searching, looking for a time where you have to key in your own point when you're allowed to talk, or the person is talking, you say, excuse me, that time you're supposed to add these things to talk. No. So they can also serve as barriers. So simple listening techniques that we can do. Listen. Do not interrupt. That's hard for a lot of people, but we need to learn it. Do not interrupt. Let the speaker finish. Concentrate on what is being said and how it is being said. I can tell you that, you see, how it is being said most times can be the difference maker for you. Then make notes if it will help you, but don't let the note you are taking be a distraction from you listening. Then show the speaker that you are listening. Pay attention. Make eye contact from time to time. Then 2, question. Why do you need to question? You want to check for understanding, to see whether what you have noted from the speakers are coming is what they want you to talk about. Then summarize and paraphrase. Okay? So let's talk about managing emotions in challenging situations. So that you'll find this on your material. I want to quickly move on. I'm being told that I have minimum time. So understanding your emotion, why we feel challenged. Okay, so it's important for us to know how some of these things work. You see, there's the amygdala. So sometimes some people have what we call the amygdala hijack. Now, the amygdala hijack is what happens to people that makes them either fight or flight or freeze, right? So things happen that get you to do any of the three that I just mentioned. So we say emotions are natural responses to situations. They can be helpful, okay, alertness, or they can hinder you. It can be anger. Recognizing your trigger is crucial. Some people they have a fear of public speaking, fear of deadline. Some people is the presence of your executive. It can throw some people off balance. Okay, so let's move on. I won't be able to take that activity.
Sorry, Mr. Onikosi. I think yes, you can. And then there was a video on the Amygdala. I think we can still run through
Yes,
that.
I'm responding to the time that I'm being told that I have.
Let's run through that. It was very rich. Let's do this.
Okay then. So here's a short video on the amygdala. Please let me know if you can hear the volume on your side. Sometimes I will need to alter my speaker setting.
We can't.
We've all had conversations where we've left feeling like they just missed the mark. Why does this happen? Well, part of the reason has to do with our brain, specifically the amygdala. What's the amygdala, you ask? It's only Sarah's favorite part of the brain. The amygdala is the part of the brain that is constantly scanning your environment for threats so that it can move you into action so it can protect you. Those threats might be physical, mental, emotional, or even to our ego. One of the ways I like to think about the amygdala is to imagine it's this shaking little neurotic chihuahua. It's shaking and it's nervous and it's ready to bark at anything that it perceives as a threat. Some of us have more neurotic chihuahuas than others. So what does any of this have to do with conversations? When our amygdala is triggered, it hijacks our brain. It pumps our body and our brain full of these chemicals and hormones that shut down parts of our brain. So we lose access to things like logic and reasoning, problem solving, listening, and empathy. All things pretty important to building trust. So when my amygdala is triggered or when your amygdala is triggered, there's no way we can connect and build trust in the same way as when we're calm. So what do you do if you notice the amygdala has been hijacked in you or the other person? That is a really good time to step away, take a breath, and regroup when both parties have had a chance to breathe. Here's your challenge. I want you to do an amygdala audit. Think about a time when you had a stress response and think about what did it feel like when you were going through that. Because the more aware you are about your response, the more likely you can catch it when it's happening in the moment. Or you're more likely to notice it in someone else. And remember, play fully brave. Did you find this helpful? Like, subscribe, and share with others. And if you're looking for more...
So, yeah. So can I ask, did you guys, any takeaway from that for you? Anyone wants to share what you picked up? So that's the amygdala. It's there, everyone has it. It blows out of proportion everything that happened at first. So that's why I said when anything happens, emotionally, what you need to do is to take a deep breath. It helps you to calm down. You put the amygdala under control. You are able to now take charge of what happened, because the amygdala will give it its own definition based on its initial understanding, like that. And it can, so you find out that your response is usually much more out of proportion than what really happened. I've talked about this a lot. The first one, take a deep breath. What does it do? It slows down your heart rate and it clears your thinking. Two, the positive self-talk. So it reassures you. I mean, it's more like a reassurance. You do self-talk, talk to yourself now. I'm this, I'm calm, I'm on top of my game. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's really nothing. I mean, I'm doing well. Because as you speak to yourself, you are controlling your emotions, you are putting your emotions where they should be. Okay, and then the third one is the physiological cues. Maintain eye contact and have a relaxed posture. Then mental reframing. You reframe the situation. Look at it from from a different perspective. It's not it's not as bad as it is. I mean, really nothing has happened. My boss has just said, oh, he doesn't like it, that's all. So that's very important for us to be able to do. Then communicating with confidence. So we say active listening. Acknowledge the other person's perspective. Okay, own your feelings without blaming someone else. So, like statement like, "Oh, I feel frustrated when my executive instruction is not clear to me." So don't say, I mean, it's different from my boss is always frustrating me with the way he gives instruction. Can you see the framing is different? I'm the one, I feel frustrated when I don't, when his instructions are not clear to me. Then focus on solution. Offer constructive suggestions. Politely decline all reasonable requests. Obviously, that's not going to come from you. Executive. Building resilience for long-term success. Okay, so these are some of the things that can help you. Practice self-care, exercise, and healthy sleep. Deep sleep. Many of us sleep, but we don't sleep. It's one of the points that adds to stress for us. You sleep, you're not sleeping. You are sleeping, your mind is working. Easy, you're not sleeping. Developing growth mindset and all of this. We can do all of that. Let's quickly, this is the last one. Femi, I hope I can take this, finish this before.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can.
So, let's talk about non-verbal communication and body language. Okay? The non-verbal cue scale. This is what I call this one. All right. So now this is very important for us. Facial expression. Facial expression is key. Facial expression is key. So universal emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, they are expressed through our facial features. So and these are very important elements of communication. You might say, no, I don't even show it, or you don't even know. Okay, so make it your habit to keep a smiling face, no matter what. Okay, I'm not a medical expert, but I've read that it takes less muscle to smile than you need to frown. So learn to smile. I think some books I read say you need about 12 or 11 muscles to smile, and you need in the region of 70 or so or more to frown. So do yourself a favor, just smile. Then the second element there in the non-verbal elements is the gesture. Your hand movement, thumbs up, the illustrators, they convey meaning. All of these things convey meaning. Posture, if you have a slouching posture, this might indicate a lack of interest in what is being said. While an upright posture suggests confidence and interest, desire in something, eye contact is very important. It shows attentiveness, it shows engagement, it shows that you are interested, it shows that you're confident, you know what you're doing, and it shows that also you don't have anything to hide, because for people who avoid making eye contact, sometimes it demonstrates either nervousness or dishonesty. So they're wondering which is it now. You're now making people to guess. Is it that this person is nervous or this person is not being truthful? Okay? Then the tone of your voice is very important. The pitch, the volume, the pace, they can convey emotion and influence the impact that your message would have. So culture influences communication. So non-verbal cues can vary significantly across culture. Excuse me. So there are cultures where if you're speaking, for instance, to the opposite sex, you can't make eye contact. It is seen, it is viewed rather as disrespectful, it is viewed as intruding and all of that. So this also are things we must take into consideration. A thumbs up might be positive in one culture. Excuse me, please. And offensive in another. Understanding cultural nuances is crucial for avoiding misunderstanding. So how do you decode non-verbal cues? How do you decode non-verbal? You pay attention to consistency between verbal and non-verbal, right? Because inconsistency can indicate hidden emotion or mixed messages. So consider cultural peculiar needs of your boss or the dynamics of your work environment when interpreting non-verbal cues. And don't assume that because somebody gave you a thumbs up, that is okay. It might not mean okay. It might mean something else. So please clarify, excuse me. Observe non-verbal cues in clusters for more accurate understanding. Mastering your non-verbal communication. Be mindful of your body language and facial expression. Maintain eye contact and an open posture to convey confidence and excuse me. Using gestures naturally to enhance your message. Become aware of your tone, your voice, and your face. Okay. So here we're talking about mastering your non-verbal communication. And we're saying be mindful of your body language and facial expressions. Most times we don't even know. There's a very thin line between when your body gives you away. And most times we have that response as a defense mechanism. That's what happens. You don't even know. Maybe somebody is asking a question that you're not comfortable with, or somebody is raising an objection to something you said, and you thought you had done your research, this thing is, and somebody says, excuse me, I don't think that is, you immediately have, you put up a wall of, defense. So we need to master it. Even when someone raises an objection of that, you master not being able to, don't let people see whether you are not comfortable with it, you are angry with it. Yes, you can be angry with it now. What does this person mean? Without necessarily giving up anything. It's mastering and then maintaining eye contact and open posture is very important. Okay, so here we're talking about adapting communication styles to different personalities. So here is the chameleon effect, the adapting communication for success. So effective communication is essential for success in all aspects of life, especially for you as a support professional. However, simply conveying information isn't enough. To truly connect with others and achieve your goal, you need to be able to adapt your communication style to the different personalities and behaviors So you need to master the chameleon effect. You understand your executive, their thinking, travel in their world, in their mind, to see how they think. How do they think? How does he make decisions? What fuels the things that he does? How does he like these things done? And then craft your communication, verbal, written, non-verbal, craft it around what he wants. Because listen, don't forget, let me use this terminology here. You are a client that is serving only one customer. Your only customer is your executive. So your role, your duty is to adapt yourself to what works for them and be able to bring out the best, excuse me, in your executive. So the power of flexibility. So this is still talking about the chameleon effect, because it requires you to be flexible. It requires you to be adaptable. So what does it do? It helps you to improve communication and collaboration. There's going to be reduced conflict and misunderstanding. There's not going to be a lot of going and coming back and forth, okay, over an issue. Because over time, if you are having that experience where there's a back and forth between you and your executive on something that's asked you to do, and you keep going back and forth on the same issue, after a while, he's going to feel frustrated and think that he has no need for you, because you're not making life easy for me. Instead, you're stressing my life. Maybe I don't need this person. You don't ever want it to get to that level. So it also helps to build stronger relationships and trust, because he knows this person is adaptable to, and it increases your influence and persuasion. Recognizing communication style. So here I've highlighted 4 different communication styles. We have the analyst, the diplomat, the sentinel, and the explorer. So the analyst, they are the ones that like to speak in data-driven, logical, arrange it well. Don't mistake page 3. What should be on page 2? Don't go and put it page 5. You will trigger problem in that place immediately. So logic, they value detail. Don't keep out any information. Don't help them filter what you think is not important. Except they've asked you, okay, digest it and give me. But these are this kind of things. They want factual communication. Then the diplomat. The diplomat is relationship oriented. They value harmony and collaboration. They respond well to appreciation and positive reinforcement. The sentinel, they are traditional, they value order and they value security. They appreciate clear structure and follow through. Don't start something and then jump something in between before you know. So you might have an executive, they might give you 4 or 5 things to do. Do those things in order, except he comes back to say, okay, jump to number 5 and give me that one now. Follow the order. Then the 4th one is the explorer. They are creative, they value innovation, they value risk-taking, they thrive on brainstorming and open discussion. Okay, so it's now important for you to tailor your approach to each of these people. So for the diplomat, what we do is we focus on data, logic, and clear explanation. To the diplomat, you need to use what? Inclusive language. you highlight collaboration and express appreciation. For the Sentinel, provide structure, follow up on the commitments that you have, and emphasize stability. For the Explorer, encourage brainstorming, be open to new ideas, and present the possibilities that are available. So, tying everything together that we talked about today, actively listen to understand communication preferences of your executive is important. You need to have a more listening ear. 2, adjust your communication style in a subtle way, not in an inauthentic way, but you can't be overbearing if you're trying to do that. Then observe communication. Is a two-way street, right? So actively listen to the other person to understand their style and adapt your approach, focusing on clarity and respect. Avoid being inauthentic, but try to find a middle ground where you can be understood. Finally, observe the other person's response and be prepared to adjust your communication further, if needed, to ensure successful interaction. Okay, so this is very fun. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Onyekosi. Sure. We've all been impacted by everything you said, each of the modules and each of the sub-modules that you spoke on. I picked a lot in everything you said, and one of the key things that you spoke about was the amygdala. It's easy for us to get distracted and get cooped up with everything that we're doing, but I want us to use the insight that we've learned in this class we should apply it in the daily things we do, not just work, but also in our daily life. But it's time for question and answers. Please, do we have questions and answers? Do you have questions? Mr. Onyekosi is still here to answer your questions. Okay, from Chima. Chima is asking a question: how can one work on nervousness, especially when they're in a situation where the boss has reacted in an escalating way to a job done by you? Yes, I think everybody can relate. Most people can relate to this question. Mr. Onyekosi. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Chima asked the question.
Okay, so that's an interesting question too. Yeah, so I would say that practice handling nervousness. Okay, so sometimes when we talk about nervousness, let me also tell you that nervousness, right? It comes from nerves. And to a large extent, it's when there is excitement in your system. Now, the excitement now will be determined rather by the definition you give it, whether it's a positive excitement or a negative excitement. So in this scenario, when you have done a job that your boss has reacted in an escalating way, now the question is, you need to know that whatever the reaction is, it is not about you, Chima. It's about the job. So there are two different things. That's going to help you calm down. Otherwise, if you get nervous, you will go back and repeat the mistake, probably in another way. You return again. The situation is going to get worse because you keep repeating the mistake. So you need almost understand that when a situation is escalated and your boss is not happy with a job, his unhappiness is not with Chima. It is with what Chima had done or what Chima had not done. So there are two different things: personality and the issues. So don't take it personal. Usually the nerves get escalated when you take it personal. You now start to interpret what he said with your personal lenses. So is he saying that I don't even know anything? Does it even mean that I don't know book? Does it even mean that I don't know what I'm doing? Can you see that you're the one giving it this definition? That's not what your boss has said. Your boss is upset that you gave him something that he did not even expect from you. He expects a lot more from you because your boss even knows that you are more capable, right, of doing a better job than you are doing. So that's what is getting him on the edge. How can you? But you didn't get that. What you're getting is, wow, it just means I don't know anything. Does it mean I don't even know anything? With everything I do with it to this boss, with all the sacrifices I make for him, can you see how you take that little issue, you take it off the curve, and it increases the nerves, and the nervousness increases. So the same way that I've told you the formula, take a deep breath. He's not angry with you. It is a job that you did that is not pleasing to him. It is the job. So what do? Take the job and you tell him, I'll be right back, sir. You go back and do it. When you don't take it personal, the nerves will not impede your doing the job properly.
Oh, that was your question, Chima. Okay, yes, said thank you. We have another question from Praise from UBA. They want you to explain the statement. The important part of listening is hearing what isn't said.
Hearing what isn't said. Yes. So when I displayed that slide, I also mentioned to us that what isn't said is to be able to pick the things that is to pick the intention of the speaker from the things that he's saying. That's what it means. The thought behind what he's saying. And it is with active listening you can do that. That's what it means. So you listen in between the lines to hear what he did not say from what he said. So that also takes skills. That takes introspection. That also takes intuition. Some people can be saying something to you and their body language is saying entirely differently from what they're saying. You need to be able to read in between the lines. And also, another example, like I said, is to be able to gauge the mood when you go into the office of your executive. You went in to say something to him or to discuss something with him. But when you got into his office, you were able to gauge the room. There's an energy in the room that when you walked in, the way he looked up at you, you know that this is not the usual person. Excuse me. Something is not okay here. Or maybe it's usually the type that looks up when you enter and say, come in. But you entered and his face was down on his table, he was doing whatever he was doing. You should know that there's a message that he's sending to you. Being able to read in between the lines what is not being said. I hope that helped Zubidi. Yes, any more questions?
Do we have any other question? Okay, yes, Praise responded that it helped. We're drawing very close to the end of this day one of this workshop. I would like to, do we have any other questions? Okay. In the absence of none, I would like to nominate Tolulope from Standard Chartered to please give a vote of thanks to Mr. Onikosi, and then we'll take the last group photograph for today, and my colleague will give the closing remarks. So Tolulope, please give the photo of thanks to our facilitator.
Hi, good afternoon once again. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Baby Dan. organizers, and every other attendee. For me, this is my first time joining a session like this. It has been so informative. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to prepare such a rich session for us. It's been almost 2 hours, and everybody's still here, and we're still able to follow. And thanks so much for me. Thank you so much, sir, for the session today. And we understand that you were having some health challenges, but you still made the time to be here. We're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Mr. Onikwesi, you're not involved in the first group photograph, so we're going to take another one. Kindly unmute, turn on your video and smile at your webcam. And then we're taking the screenshots now. All right, thank you so much. Sophia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. With the response we'll be getting from the participants, it's obvious that we all understand everything and we have learned something today. So on behalf of the board of directors, we would like to extend our sincere appreciation to both the facilitators and the participants for your dedication to this training. Thank you. We hope to see this energy tomorrow, because tomorrow will be another exciting section. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.